Good evening, folks. Tonight is January 16th, 2024. I welcome you to the Charter Review Committee. Quorum being present, I will call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business is to review the minutes from January 2nd. I want to thank Michelle for working on these, even on a day off. You don't need to do that. It's much appreciated. Have folks had a chance to review?
Yeah.
Are there any changes that need to be made? Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. And is there a second?
Second.
The motion is made by Mr. Pfizer and seconded by Ms. Votrain. I'll note at the top here that both Mr. Bolton and Mr. Hanlon are acting as full members, since we have three of our full members absent here tonight, Mr. Zuccaroli, Ms. Cavaco, and Mr. Lawler. So I'll call the roll again with Mr. Bulletin and Hanlon being full. Mr. Bulletin, your vote. Yes. Mr. Hanlon.
I wasn't at that meeting, so I guess I'll abstain.
That's fair. Ms. Cavaco is not present. Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes.
Mr. Lawler is absent. Mr. Levin.
Yes.
Mr. Pfizer.
Yes.
Ms. Votrain.
Yes.
Mr. Zuccaroli is not present, and I vote yes. The motion carries by a vote of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 in favor and 1 abstention. All right. Do we have any public comments? There are none in person. Do we have any online? They're all down the hall. Yeah. Seeing and hearing none, we will move on in the agenda. I like how fast we're working tonight. The next item in your packet you have at the very back is a proposed meeting schedule. We are behind from where we had anticipated our work to be. We've spent a lot of time in chapter 2. I think that's due largely to the fact that many of us are or were town meeting members at some point in time, so I think we have a vested interest and a deep level of experience and knowledge on chapter 2. I think we'll probably spend a lot of time on chapter 3, and we'll continue to do our diligence with following chapters, but I think in order to get us back on track, we need to meet more frequently. Or the alternative is that we have longer sessions here, so I want to pose that to the group. So what Michelle and I have put together here is a meeting schedule whereby we would meet every other week in person. And on those off weeks, we would meet via Zoom. So it would be an every week commitment. Now, we could change this as soon as we get caught up on our work. Or alternatively, as I said, we could do longer sessions. We've been ending around 8:30 each time we've had these meetings. There's been a strong contingent of folks who have wanted to conclude the meeting by 8 o'clock. But I think in order to get this work done in a timely and relevant manner, we ought to have this done for the October town meeting this year. Mr. Levin has written down some dates for me. Could you tell me when the warrant opens for the October town meeting?
The warrant opens on July the 23rd.
And would close
On the 9th.
The 9th of August. So if we were to stick to our schedule, which would have us finishing in June, that would give us just a couple of weeks to get our articles drafted, and some of that work will be done along the way, but we also need to shop this around town and build capacity. So I'm of the mind that we need to do one of these two things, either meet more frequently or have longer sessions, but I'll open it to discussion.
My preference is meeting more frequently, but I have a question as to why we wouldn't want to meet in person every week.
if the room is available, I think it's a more productive way of doing our business.
Is the room available every week?
I don't know.
Okay, so we'd have to look into that. I did an every other week Zoom meeting because I felt that, people would be, too taxed to come in every week, but I am certainly open to that as well.
If we vote on this tonight, do we have any concerns about the people who are not here? Voicing some strong opposition to it?
I don't, in fact, I don't think that you even need to take a vote, as the chair, I have the ability to call a meeting, so, I wanna get your preference though, I like to hear what you folks think.
I'd rather meet more frequently.
I would too.
And that's fine with me too.
And I'm in agreement with
I think going longer, you might tend to go down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
And I like going home at 8.
Yeah, and that's fair, right? And
I like having my beer at 8:30.
I wanna be respectful of folks, schedule, that's why I brought this to you at each stage of the way, so. We will plan our next meeting after this, we'll keep it as a Zoom, just, until we can do the research and figure out, whether or not it's
It's
feasible.
available more than it's not.
Okay, we'll take a look at that, and if we can do some more in-person sessions, we'll do that too, but. So for now, the 16th is today, the 23rd, we will do, as a Zoom meeting. The 30th, I think we were taking off, Michelle?
Yes,
Yep, and then, we'll go in February to the every week schedule with the rotating unless we decide to do them all in person.
What week is school vacation? The 12th to the 18th in February?
Not having a child in the school system, I have no idea.
I don't think that's an issue.
Whenever President's Day.
President's Day
Okay.
week.
I just thought I'd bring it up just in case.
And certainly, if folks have travel or, other commitments. This committee is not your life, and I accept that. We do have 2 alternates and they're serving today as full members, and that's precisely why we had alternates added to our committee, so. I think that it would be perfectly acceptable if folks couldn't make it to, some, sessions. I am seeing here that, President's Day is the 19th,
Oh,
unless I'm on the wrong year.
it's 12, that's what my calendar says, who knows? Can I make a suggestion that we do the Zoom for the 23rd and see how it goes?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do the Zoom.
There are occasions, if I'm out of town, where I might be able to zoom in, so, it's always available, right?
It is always, yep. We'll always have a Zoom component for the
Yeah.
in-person part, and obviously, if we do a Zoom session exclusively, that would be an option.
I know that I'm gonna be on Zoom for 2 weeks in March, the 5th and the 12th,
Yeah,
or something like that.
okay. Great.
And just
Yeah,
so,
the 5th and the 12th.
I'm going to Florida,
Yeah, I know you are.
so those first 3 weeks in February. I will be unavailable.
Okay. Sounds good.
Do we have to vote jealousy?
I think we can do that by application.
I'm bringing my snow shovel.
Okay.
All right, well, it sounds like we're all in agreement there, so let's move on to our discussion items for the night. We finished up with section 4 last time, so let's head into our discussion on section 5, which Michelle has pulled up here. This is our attendance section. I noted that there are items in here that have nothing to do with attendance, so we may want to think about moving those around. We also created in a previous meeting, a section about that describes the role of the clerk as regards to town meeting, so one of those might be able to move there as well. But let's just start with 2-5-1. Representative town meeting members shall attend all representative town meeting sessions each calendar day during which any portion or portions of a representative town meeting or meetings is/are conducted shall be deemed to be a single representative town meeting. That's word garbage, but it works. I will happily take suggestions.
I just note that there seems to be a quotation mark missing in my version, but I'm
Yeah,
Yep,
Okay, I would eliminate that, representative. I would eliminate the one.
Yep.
That appears between single and representative and on line 250. Do we need a motion?
No.
Grammatically.
You're deleting single?
No, we're deleting the quotation prior to
Oh, just the
representative.
quotation.
Yeah.
sorry, I think we do, but,
Go ahead, make a motion, Larry.
I'll move to eliminate the quotation mark in.
I'll second it. So we've got a motion by Mr. Pizer, seconded by Mr. Bulletin to eliminate the quotation. I'm gonna suggest that we don't need to debate it. I'll call a roll. Mr. Bulletin? Yes. Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca is not present. Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lawler is not present. Mr. Levin?
Yes.
Mr. Pizer?
Yes,
Ms. Botrain?
Yes,
And Mrs. Zuccarelli is not here, and I vote yes, motion carries unanimously with 8 votes. All right, let's move on. Anything else with 2-5-1? Excellent, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on. 2-5-2 says, during each representative town meeting session, the town clerk shall cause the attendance to be taken prior to the commencement of the session. A record of those in attendance shall be kept until the end of the representative town meeting session to enable latecomers to be recorded as present. The attendance record shall be public and made to be part of the representative town meeting proceedings. It could go in the clerk's section, it could stay here, it is related to attendance, so what's the pleasure of the committee?
So my sense of, how to deal with the clerk issue is if the clerk is actually doing something, then it belongs in, the clerk section.
Do you think that this would
Yeah.
constitute that?
And it sounds like it says that the clerk shall, where did it go?
Yep.
Yeah.
Shall cause the attendance to be taken, right?
Would you make the motion to move this to the clerk's section?
Yeah, I would move this, make a motion to move this to a clerk's section of this chapter.
Excellent, is there a second?
I second.
All right, the motion by Mr. Hutchinson is seconded by Mr. Levin, is there discussion? Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Bulletin? Yes. Mr. Hammond?
Okay,
I need an affirmative or,
that's okay. That's yes.
Ms. Cavaco is not present, Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Hutchinson?
Yeah.
Mr. Lawler is not here, Mr. Levin?
Yes.
Mr. Pizer?
yes,
Ms. Botrain?
yes,
Mrs. Zuccarelli is not present, and I vote yes as well. The motion carries unanimously with 8 votes. Lovely. 2-5-3, reads. And Michelle's scroll on in a moment. A representative town meeting, member who moves from the town shall cease to be a meeting member. And a representative town meeting member who moves from the precinct from which the representative was elected to another precinct may only serve until the next annual town meeting. The town clerk may also declare the seat vacant if the registrars of voters under sections 47B, 48, and 49 of chapter 51 of the general laws or any other applicable law determine that the representative town meeting member is illegally or incorrectly registered to vote. Mr. Pizer.
in the 1, 2, 3, 4th line, I think we should change the word may to shall.
Yeah. I second that.
I will make that as a motion.
All right, so Mr. Pizer,
So you're saying another precinct shall serve?
No, this was the town clerk shall also declare the seat vacant if the registrars of voters, I'm just,
Oh, okay.
this person's illegal.
yes,
The clerk ought not
All
to declare it vacant.
so Mr. Pizer makes the motion, I think it was,
Second.
Mr. Hutchinson who seconded, I'll go to Mr. Hutchinson, then Mr. Hanlon.
Should you add to this section, the clerk's responsibility to call a precinct chair and have that precinct chair replace the absent member. It's happened to me several times.
Guys are,
I forget where, but it actually, there is a process.
it's under the
And
comments.
it's not, there's an intervening step. If there is a person who received votes
Yeah,
in the election,
Oh,
that
yeah.
person automatically, so, yeah,
yeah,
I don't think that. I agree with the sentiment, but I don't think it belongs in this section.
that comes under section 11, so we can get into the details of that when we get there tonight, but it is in
It's
there.
in section 11.
Yep, it's under the processes. I think, or maybe it's section 9, filling vacancies. Go ahead, Mike.
A bunch of stuff. Town clerk, and that's before the may or shall, should be capitalized as it is in the previous section or paragraph. I wonder, this is not about attendance per se. It's about, is a town meeting member,
I agree.
yeah,
It's a bit eligibility.
it's eligibility.
Yeah.
It's not about attendance. So-
Yeah, I agree.
So that's one comment. Then we got this in the following line, under sections 47B, 48, 49. I thought we were gonna kind of take all that stuff out. Just basically say, you gotta comply with state law, so if you took that whole from under to applicable law out, basically says the registrars of voters determines that a representative town meeting is illegal or incorrectly registered.
I much agree.
So would you accept that as a friendly amendment?
So yeah, so you're suggesting from under sections 47, 40, 47B, 48, 51 of the Master General Laws or any other applicable law, delete those words.
Right.
I would certainly.
Or are you saying delete the words sections through?
No, so it would end up.
They gotta take out the comma and under.
So you're taking out that whole clause,
Right.
under,
Yeah.
between under and applicable law.
It would read, the registrars of voters determine that the representative precinct
Okay,
time is illegally or incorrectly registered.
all right, so Michelle, for your purposes, may will be changed to shall. Well, you've accepted that as a friendly amendment. Joe, would you maintain
What
your,
line you want, 260?
yep, right where you are. Joe, would you maintain your second?
Second, yes.
Excellent. All right, so we're changing that to shall. And then we're also going to, delete,
From the end of line 260.
under, so,
The comma under
the
the
comma after voters in that same line. To the comma after,
Okay.
After law.
that whole clause. Until after law, yep, exactly. Excellent. Mike still has the floor, then I'll come to Martha, and then I'll come back to Joe.
So the question for Mr. Pizer. The difference between may and shall, I understand. The question is, does the town clerk, under the general laws, have the option of ignoring a decision of the registrar of voters? Because if they do, if the town clerk has the ability to ignore a vote of the registrar, then it should be may, not shall. Make sense?
Do they have discretion
Yeah,
in this matter?
linguistically, it makes sense.
I don't believe,
I got you.
no, the power of it's two different matters. The registrars of voters have the responsibility to say that this is not a legitimate voter, registered voter in the town of Plymouth,
For that precinct.
period.
Right.
That's their basic job. what we're saying here is, if that occurs, what should the town clerk do about town meeting?
Right.
And they don't have discretion.
And we're eliminating discretion because we know that a person is not a registered voter,
Right,
then he shouldn't be a town meeting representative.
okay.
So shall hold.
Yeah,
So there's two things going on. One is a town meeting member could move from one precinct to a different precinct. And this says they would still be a town meeting member until the next town meeting,
annual.
annual town meeting, not, does that mean the start or does that mean through that town meeting?
It means through.
Through, okay. So then the other.
Historically, it has meant through.
All right, so then the other option, or the other alternate, whatever scenario would be, somebody actually moves out of town.
Right.
And they're not registered in Plymouth anymore at all.
Or
That-
not
that
only
seems
not
like-
registered in Plymouth, but not eligible to be registered in Plymouth. And if you lose your residence, then you lose your registration.
Right,
Where's-
okay,
Say some more, I'm not sure I understood.
If I go to deepest Kingston,
Oh, out of town,
yeah,
that's, I thought you were talking, I thought Mike was saying somebody moved.
no, there are two,
Within,
to another
within,
town, move to
there are
another
two,
town.
there
Oh,
are two
within-
different scenarios
Right.
and we're covering both in a separate way.
Yeah, if he moves from one precinct to another within Plymouth, this is covered. This clause covers it. That person is still a town meeting member through the next town meeting, annual town meeting.
Should we change the word until or to through, just so we're clear about that?
Yes, I would accept that as a,
Can I ask a question before we make that decision? Why don't we just eliminate them from being a town meeting member?
that's, you know,
Cause they're not.
that was my next discussion once we finish this one. You're talking about if you move from one precinct to another.
Right,
So there are two pictures in this. One is you have a wise person who has prepared for town meeting and decided to move, was bright enough not to leave Plymouth, but did decide to move from one precinct to another. And we don't wanna lose that person's talent and preparation. And then,
What if we do want to lose?
well,
that?
then there's the second alternative, which is each person who is representing, who is an elected town meeting representative is only representing his precinct. And so, you know, there are definitely two pictures of what a town meeting representative does. And it's certainly up to us to determine which one we believe in.
Yeah, but doesn't he have this responsibility to the people that elected him? That he's no longer living in that precinct, that he should resign, he or she should resign. Because they no longer are representing the people that elected them.
well, not under our charter, he or she doesn't have that responsibility.
He can
Could be.
resign.
But so we're codifying that he doesn't have to.
For up through the next annual town meeting.
Okay, Martha.
I don't think, well, I never did think that a precinct member didn't, well, obviously they represent the precinct, but they also, I think, should represent all the town also at the same time, just like state and national representatives do. So that's why I don't see anything wrong with what we have right here.
Sure, I mean,
From that point
there
of
are
view.
philosophical differences, like I don't believe that, I believe that my representative in the general court should represent me where I live and not anyone else in this state. I believe that Bill Keating should represent me and no one else outside of his district, I don't believe that they should represent the country as a
Okay,
whole.
so we are different.
So I think there are philosophical differences there, and I'm seeing some heads nodding, so I think there might be some agreement to that. But I think that's why we should make a recommendation whether or not. To me, I think that this, 2-5-3 should actually, only be, the last sentence, which we've already amended. I think everything else, I think your eligibility is that you're a voter, you're a registered voter in that precinct, and the moment that you lose that eligibility, because you've moved, you're no longer a town meeting member. That's my opinion.
So what you're saying is, if I may just, you're saying we should change this to have one sentence. It says the town clerk shall declare the seat vacant if the register of voters determines da, 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 da.
Yes, that is what I would do.
And that makes it simple. Clear and not ambiguous.
You know, I'm basically against history, of course, but, historically, it was you leave the precinct, you lose your seat.
Yeah.
This was an addition and fairly recent, I'm gonna say within the past 10 years. That there was a decision that it would be disruptive to town meeting to lose a town meeting member.
How frequently?
Whether that means it's good, separate matter.
How frequently do town meeting members move?
Happens within town? Once in 3 years, maybe?
I have moved since becoming a town meeting member. I'm still the same
We
person.
had a guy in precinct 15, I'm not even sure it was precinct 15 at the time, moved to a different precinct. And it got fairly contentious because he didn't declare that.
Right.
And there were people who were angry about that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to do with Matt Hood, but there's a case going on in New Hampshire with this guy. This is a legislator that he said he lived in one town, but he lived in another place, and it's just gone. I think so the question is, how much has the growth of Plymouth, the increase in precincts and has made this? I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen as much, but I just think from a standpoint of, we've talked about clarifying this. When we start putting a lot of words in it, we just make it confusing, you know, it's like optioning it to death, all the variables, all the different scenarios. You could spend hours on this one section trying to figure out, well, if this happened, then you do this, if this happened, then you do this. I think the last sentence just says, basically, you got elected to be a representative from a certain place in town. And yes, you're representing all the town, but those voters who voted for you expect you to live where they voted you for.
Joe, did I skip over you?
No, I had something, I mean, you guys are negotiating this, and I had something that I
Okay.
wanted to add later.
Let me come back to Martha, then Mike, then Larry.
I'm thinking about the commissioner's proposed charter that had, from some people's point of view, so many changes, it just was way too much. And of course, you know, the changes that they were had feelings about were changed. The things that they had strong feelings about. So from that point of view, I didn't know the historical aspect of this, but I still don't think that town meeting would be detrimentally impacted, or the citizens that voted for a particular town meeting member enough to change it. And I personally, as I said, I don't see why a town meeting member can't represent both his own area
Sure.
and the general
And
whole town, if necessary at the same
I
time.
also want to say that's a perfectly valid philosophy, and just because we disagree doesn't mean that we can't vote on it valid. But Steve, and then Mike.
Theoretically, just because that person has moved also doesn't mean that they're not still representing the people, their friends and neighbors where they just came from, at least for that next town meeting. So it's not as if this is oh, I've moved to this place now in town, and therefore I'm going to attack my former precinct.
Yeah.
It's just not the most likely event.
Go ahead, Mike, sorry, I skipped you.
The whole, the term registered to vote in that precinct, I think needs some discussion, because what I think about is it is important for town meeting members, but it's not important for anybody else. Because if you're a registered voter in Plymouth and you move from precinct 15 to precinct 3, you're still a registered voter in Plymouth. You don't have to change you're not registered to vote in a precinct.
You
You're registered to vote in,
are, you're a precinct.
so if you move from one, I guess that's a question for you, you should know.
Yeah.
If I move from precinct 15 to any other precinct, I have to go down and re-register to vote?
If you move from your house next door,
Yes.
you have to re-register.
Oh,
It's by address.
okay.
Mhm.
And you would vote in a different place.
Well,
So if
not
you went to
necessarily.
3, you wouldn't vote in.
yeah, okay.
Well, maybe
All right,
If you
I
move
get
out of
it, I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is more about, we're talking about town meeting members. I don't think we're talking about where you get to vote as a citizen.
No, but I was going to make the
Oh, I'm sorry.
additional point
All right,
that
sorry, I meant.
it is important for town meeting members, but I guess it's important for everybody.
Right.
So I missed that nuance. All right.
I'm as usual blaming the chair. He brought up a good point. This is not clear legal language. And I think the clear legal language, as someone pointed out, is registered to vote, because moves. There's moving temporarily, Mike is moving to Florida.
Right.
And
For
he's
3
not
weeks.
changing, he's not changing his voter registration. So I think if we're going to keep this here, maybe we ought to rewrite this paragraph elsewhere and come back, because,
Yeah, I also, well, I'll agree with you, Larry, on, the language being muddled, and in fact, I think when we change it, if we vote as we drafted it here tonight, I think the last sentence negates the prior sentence. Because if the person moves and they register to vote elsewhere, right, the clerk has to declare it vacant, so they can't serve through the next town meeting.
right, but,
If it's a vacant seat,
I think what they were trying to do, and that's why I'm suggesting rewriting the entire paragraph. What they were trying to do is to make a third possibility. One is very straightforwardly. Guy says, I'm living here, now I'm living there, I'm re-registering to vote there. That's it. Second one is, I'm living here, I'm moving within Plymouth. We've covered those two. The third one is, that slippery guy says, I'm living in Plymouth, and I'm a legitimate voter, and we find out that he's actually a Bahrainian citizen. And that's
Why am I the
a.
slippery guy?
That-
Your turn.
Okay, Romanian citizen, whatever.
Can I move to London? I gotta be in London.
And that's where that last sentence applies.
Right, but I think that, so if the town meeting member moves, even within Plymouth, if they move down the street and it happens to be in a new precinct, and they register to vote as they should, the town clerk has to declare that seat vacant, because the registrar of voters will tell her they've
within,
moved,
within that same precinct,
no, into a new precinct.
into a different
Yeah.
precinct.
Yeah, I think, and see, that's what I'm saying is if we start trying to play all the different options, we'll be here all night. But I think we have to keep the focus on, this is talking about who is a legitimate member of town meeting, nothing else about voting for anything else,
Right,
anything else. And this is simply that last sentence with the thing about the general law stroke, just simply says, if you move out of your precinct,
Whether that's out of town, whether that's within town, or
Right.
to a new
it
precinct.
doesn't define move, it says move out of the precinct, no matter where you went. you can no longer vote at town, you're no longer a member of town meeting, basically.
Well, we probably ought to find out if we could, whether we want to eliminate the, as step one, whether we want to eliminate what if you move within Plymouth?
I would say we eliminate it.
I know, but I mean, we probably,
So,
Yeah.
is that a decision we can make, or is there?
Well, none of the decisions we
Legal.
make are actually decisions we can make. It's, town meeting that will make the decisions.
Right.
Well, I'm not referring to that part of it, but, so then would town meeting be caught up? But, is there any general law that says we have to do one way or another?
no,
I think this would.
In other words, this,
actually-
I mean, this went through, this is the same as what was in the commissioner's proposal, I believe. And it went through all of that review.
yeah, no, I mean, all of the scenarios are legal. Now we're going to go to town meeting and say, this is the one we're
Right,
recommending.
right, right. Well, all right, let me just take a quick poll, because we could just make the changes we've decided on right now. And move forward, or we could completely, as I suggested, eliminate the first sentence entirely and leave just the remaining edited sentence. So, I'll just do a quick poll, what people think. Do we think that someone who has moved out of their precinct, whether that's within town, out of town, or elsewhere, should they remain through the end of the following town meeting? Joe, what do you think?
If they move out of the precinct, then it's a vacancy to me.
Larry?
If they,
That's what.
I'm willing to keep the present sentiment.
Mhm.
If they move out of the precinct, but not out of town,
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the way I feel too.
Meaning what? They can vote.
through the next annual town meeting.
Steve?
I'm sort of torn between the legalistic, in which I agree that it shouldn't be there, and the practical, which is who's it really hurting kind of sentiment. So I'll err on the side of being a little bit more generous in terms of town meeting and saying that
Let 'em stay.
let them stay.
Glenn?
I think that they are no longer a town member.
Mike?
I
I think I'm coming back to Joe. 'Cause
I think it, my belief is it works either way. It's a question of what does the majority want? And, or what can the majority live with? It works both ways. Because you have a time certain by which that person who has moved into another precinct has to stop being a town meeting member.
So you're fine with it?
So I'm okay with leaving it the way it is.
And I'll come back to you in a second, Joe. Alan?
Yeah, David, I'm inclined to keep it the way it is. I think, for as seldom as I imagine it happens, I think one more meeting, if you're invested in the town, is fine. Thank you.
Joe, I think Steve swayed you.
I agree with, well, Steve waffled a little, but I agree with him in that, it could, I mean, there's a bind here. And if somebody moves, then if you take that piece from section 11 and say that once that seat is declared vacant, the town clerk shall fill it. Then, you have a mechanism for that precinct having a full representation. If the clerk chases the additional member.
So I think what I hear is that we're okay with it. There's enough division that it probably wouldn't pass if we were to redraft the entire paragraph. So if Larry, you're still maintaining your motion as is on screen, correct?
Yes, but, I do want to clear up, this moves from the town, does bother me. I would suggest instead of moves from the town to say eliminates his voter registration from the town.
Okay, let's come back to that.
Okay,
Let's-
but yeah.
Let's vote on what we've got here.
Okay,
And then Larry, I will trust you to, work with, no more than 3 people on this committee to redraft the first
okay,
sentence.
we haven't done our thing yet, so I have a committee already.
Yep.
Okay,
All right, so let's vote on the motion as it is. So, the current motion is that we are editing the second sentence of, or line 2, starting at line 260. The town clerk shall also declare the seat to be vacant if the registrars of voters, and we're striking, the sentence, the clause that you see on the screen. And then determine and so forth. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the rolls. Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes,
Ms. Cavaco is not present. Mr. Costello?
Yes,
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lawler is not present. Mr. Levin?
Yes,
Mr. Pizer?
yes,
Ms. Boeckrey?
Yeah,
Mr. Zubaroli is not present, and I vote yes as well. The motion passes unanimously with 8 votes. We're on a hot streak here today, people. All right, so let's move on from section 5.
One
Steve,
more point on that. Should this section be moved to 2.2? Because it does.
yes, there was a conversation about that.
Eligibility.
Yeah, this is about eligibility, I think. I will, will you make that as a
I
motion?
will make that as a motion that this be put in the appropriate place when we order it to 2.2.
So this will be 2-2-3 to, I'm just gonna call it eligibility section. Yes,
Yes.
excellent. To avoid any confusion when we get to.
So,
What's the
yes.
section David's moving to?
section 2,
Currently section 2, the eligibility section.
yeah, I section.
Is there a second to Mr. Bolton's motion?
I second it.
Mr. Pizer got his hand up first.
okay, all right.
Is there any discussion on the matter? Hearing and see, oh, Alan, do you have something? All right, hearing and seeing no discussion, I'll call the roll. Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes,
Mr. Wacker's not present. Mr. Costello?
yes,
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Lawler's not present. Mr. Levin?
yes,
Mr. Pizer?
Yes,
Ms. Boeckrey?
yeah.
Mr. Zubaroli is not present, and I vote yes as well. So the streak continues. All right. We're gonna move on now, to section 7. You'll note that we're skipping the moderator section, so, I think we could spend an entire session potentially on some of these sections. So I have not included in our agenda here tonight, the moderator, section 10, which is the conflict of interest, which we had a lengthy but, unfruitful discussion on in an earlier session. So we can certainly come back to these items, and I've also left off, section 12. I'd ask that, given the manner in which, the conflict of interest conversation went, if you have, changes you want to make to those sections, please review them, in the coming weeks and let me know, and we'll get them on an agenda. But I think that, we've heard, what I've heard from this committee and from presenters is that the moderator seems to be operating as the moderator should. The FinCom is operating as the FinCom should, and the conflict of interest, we have a large gap to bridge before we have any decisions there. So that's why I left them off tonight's agenda. Go ahead, Nick.
yeah, just a comment about the conflict of interest clause. Both Alan and I served on the conflict of interest subcommittee. It was created by the Committee of Precinct Chairs. That was, my God, I don't know, 10 years ago, long time ago. And we came to town meeting, we had a lively discussion about all of this stuff. And we interviewed different people. My recollection was that it was Bill Abbott that drafted this section. And that it was added into the charter.
Mhm.
So, I'm gonna be gone in February. If there's gonna be any discussion about it, I would like to be available for that conversation.
I will absolutely hold if there is interest in revisiting that section, I'll hold it until you return.
Well, I imagine there would be some.
Thought we did discuss it.
Yeah, I think it's, so there were two schools of thoughts, that one that, we eliminated entirely, one that we, beef it up. Neither side had enough support, and so from my perspective, it's done, but as I've said in all these sessions, we can always revisit sections, so. If there is an appetite to review that, and, that comes up, I will make sure it's on an agenda where we will be present.
So, just a point, I guess. That those two same issues were on the table 10 years ago. Should it be eliminated? And there were lots of town meeting members who were in favor of eliminating the clause altogether. In part, and I think this is one of the problems that I have with it, it tends to focus on town employees who may or may not have a conflict of interest. And it's like putting a bullseye on the forehead of all the town employees. It really, to me, is not about town employees, about any town meeting member who has a conflict of interest. So, you know, I haven't read it for several months. But, you know, that's one potential change we could make to take.
I don't wanna get too far into that, it's not an agenda item here tonight, so I don't wanna.
No,
have a discussion on the matter, but rest assured, if it comes up again, we'll make sure we're there.
Yeah, so just one last point, if I might.
If it's on conflict of interest, I'm gonna move on.
It is about conflict.
All right, so we're gonna move on, we're gonna talk about section 7. 2-7-1 is the only, clause here. It is residents and taxpayers of the town may speak on any article in a warrant, subject to such rules and procedures as the moderator may impose. I would make a suggestion that we change moderator to the representative town meeting. We, as we've discussed in prior sessions, it is the town meeting that makes the rules, the procedural rules.
Isn't the town, just a question, I don't have any issue other than town meeting directs the moderator.
Yep.
So how the moderator gets directed, I don't think without disagreeing with you, I don't think the change is necessary.
So you're saying that town meeting makes the rules and the moderator enforces them?
It imposes them, yeah.
Yeah, but this is vague enough that this would actually suggest that the moderator may impose his own rules, separate and apart from what town meeting tells him.
No,
I
but
would agree.
elsewhere, we've already said town meeting sets the rules for town meeting.
And that's exactly why I think we should change it here to represent the town meeting.
What do we do with town meeting time?
Well, town meeting time will address non-members.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure. I don't think I have it on here tonight, but
And what is it? Sorry.
town meeting time is about motion. It's not about.
Oh, I thought it was.
The fact of the matter is, state law says that all people are allowed to address
How-
town meeting. Now,
How about compromising?
Sure.
Subject to the procedural rules of town meeting. That way,
I'm 100% in favor of that.
we're not dealing with this specific issue. All issues we've already dealt with somewhere else, that the town, between the moderator and town meeting.
Yep. We make that as a motion?
I will.
Before you do that?
Nope. We'll discuss it now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes.
You make that motion. Is there a second?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Pizer has made the motion and Ms. Votrain has seconded. So, Mr. Levin, you have some discussion.
So didn't we have a discussion about and have expressed some concern about the fact that a warrant comes up, the town meeting members talk about it, discuss it, however you want to phrase it, and then somebody makes a motion to close the discussion, and then no public comment happens. does this?
But that still allows town meeting to change that rule. The way that it was written.
Right, and that's my point is, if they don't change the rule, it never happens.
It's far worse than that, because by the end of town meeting, the last 2 or 3 articles, I can tell you that the article is announced and someone has moved to close debate before anyone has even announced it. There was a couple of years ago, literally, that's happened. The person who actually was going to present the article didn't get a chance because there was a motion to close debate
They were
because
more
people were hired and, but that is ultimately, well, I agree it shouldn't happen. It is for town meeting to decide how that occurs. I think shame on town meeting if they don't address a means to ensure better public participation, because that unfortunately just discourages the public, but that is ultimately still town meeting's determination.
Right, I mean, I agree that I don't think there's any way you could codify that rule, because, again, it's back to my earlier. You got all the scenarios, you'll be sitting here going, well, if this happens, do this happens, do this, all that. So I don't know how we make sure, because I think there's a lot of, at least for my short term, and have been involved in other town meetings in other communities, that seems to be a sore point for people, because they feel like they don't get a chance to speak. On the other hand, you know, the moderator has his job to try to get this thing done, you know, if he doesn't control it, it would go on forever.
That is not the moderator's job. The moderator's job is to facilitate the meeting. He is no time limit under which he needs to complete the work. So what I would say is that this gives town meeting the power to, create the procedural rules, which we've already discussed prior. So this is just saying that the moderator is gonna enforce the rules of town meeting, in regards to residents and taxpayers. Did you have your hand up, Mike?
Well, I was just thinking of procedurally. I think this happened at the last town meeting where there was a certain warrant article that got people's attention. There were some citizens there that wanted to speak and they didn't have the opportunity.
Sure.
So how could we modify this so that a town meeting member could stand up and say, I know I have a constituent over here from my precinct who wants to speak on this issue, and it's important that he be heard. And then maybe they have to take a vote.
Town meeting has to make that one of the procedural rules.
Right, the present procedural rules, which we all agree are illegal because they adopted at each town meeting, but they'll become legal.
Yes.
Say, are there people who wish to speak? Each time the debate is closed, and therefore that person could stand. And you understand that closing debate requires 2/3 and not even a majority of town meeting members. So it's not a matter of like the moderator just decides he's gonna do it. It's town meeting that makes that decision.
Well, but I
Town
like,
meeting members may not, I'm sorry,
no, I was gonna second your sentiment.
because town meeting members who were asked to vote on that motion to close debate may not know that there are people in the audience that need to be heard.
The moderator asks, are there people who want to be heard? And those people stand.
So I think part of whoever is, whenever we shop this around town, we need to make sure that town meeting members know that they have a responsibility. After we draft this and if they adopt it, they have a responsibility to set the rules, not us. I don't want us to go too far down that discussion, let town meeting make those decisions. Martha?
My only additional thought about this sentence, is section here, is that do we need to add taxpayers of the town may speak but have no vote on any article in a warrant subject?
I don't think so, the general.
I think it's clear that, okay.
Yeah.
So what did you do with Mike's second?
I don't think we need to put anything further in here because I don't think that it's town meeting that should make that decision, not us.
So you would change the word moderator to town meeting
Yeah, so
subject to such procedural rules as town meeting may impose.
yeah, so the motion, by Mr. Piper and seconded by Ms. Beltran is, that we change, 2-7-1 to state residents and taxpayers of the town may speak on any article in a warrant, subject to the procedural rules of town meeting. Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
to me, it seems more proactive to say, subject to such procedural rules as town meeting may impose. That puts the burden on town meeting too.
I agree, but I also think that this accomplishes the same thing. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. I'm not sure that we have exactly the same sentiment, but I have constituents who don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And they're standing up there at the microphone, and it would be helpful if I were able to point and say, hey, you know.
Yeah.
I have this expert, or I have this person with a cause, and I would like them to be able to speak.
Maybe, I think we're getting too far in the weeds on this. I think what probably needs to happen is, and this is not our committee's jurisdiction, but I think there perhaps needs to be a section, a queue for non-members, separate from the, well, the line of speakers that are town meeting members. I think we are, I think, mark that down, Michelle, we'll make that suggestion too. I'm kidding. But I think we're going way too far in the weeds as to how this happens. We need to, what we're doing is we're empowering town meeting to make the decision as to whether it will happen.
And to me, what we're talking about and what Joe's maybe referring to could possibly be accomplished additionally with a town meeting, how the town meeting handbook is written. We
Yeah.
already have one.
Yeah,
And of course, COPC, that's their
Yeah, they're working on it.
raison
right now.
d'etre.
Right.
okay,
So what are we changing? Can we?
so up on the screen, 2-7-1, if we vote this in, we'll read residents and taxpayers of the town may speak on any article in a warrant, subject to the procedural rules of town meeting. I'm gonna call the roll now. Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Ms. Kavaka is not present. Mr. Costello,
Mr. Costello, yes.
thank you. Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes.
Mr. Lawler is not present. Mr. Levin,
Yes.
Mr. Piper,
Yes.
Ms. Votran,
Yeah,
Mrs. DeBrey is not present, and I vote yes. Again, we are 8-0 here. All right, unanimous vote there. All right, we will move on. And we are now in section 8, compulsory attendance. This is in regards to town officers and staff members attending town meeting. All town officers, the town manager, the town engineer, chairpersons of boards and commissions, and the advisory and finance committee, and all heads or department heads or those officially designated representatives shall attend all representative town meeting sessions. They shall have all privileges of representative town meeting members, except the power to vote, unless they have been elected to the office of representative town meeting member. The absence of any such person shall not invalidate the actions of representative town meeting. Go ahead, Mike.
It seems to me we already have a clause called attendance, but it's called attendance of town meeting representative, but I think we're moving a lot of stuff around there. It's gonna end up with one paragraph. And this is a section with one paragraph. It makes sense to me to put both the requirement for town meeting member attendance and this clause in the same paragraph or the same section called attendance or compulsory attendance.
So your motion will be twofold, I guess. It would be to rename section 5 to be attendance.
Well, I would say, leave it section 8 called compulsory attendance. because that's what 5-2-1 is about. It's about attendance of town meeting members.
So, okay, so we would combine sections 5 and 8 under the header compulsory attendance. Is that your motion?
Yeah.
Is there a second? Mr. Piper seconds. All right.
Hang on a second.
Sections. All right, so the motion is that we combine sections 5 and 8 under the title, under the section header compulsory attendance. I think compulsory attendance, because both of the clauses compel them to, they say you have to attend, so.
So you're saying that 351 and 352 would become 281, 28 something, 2.
We'll address the numbering at some other point.
Well, I understand the number, but I'm just saying that's where you're basically taking 8 and 5 and combining it to become some number.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, we're not making any substantive changes, it's just a reorganizational change.
I'm assuming we're moving 8 to 5. Is that-
That's what I would.
Yeah, okay.
But Joe, Joe and I are gonna work on numbering after we get through this section,
Yes.
so, which we might be able to do before our next meeting. If we're lucky.
That would be nice.
Is there any further discussion on combining sections, with Martha and
I
Steve?
just, I'm not clear of, I can more understand compulsory for town offices, town managers, and that section, which is now 2-8-1. Because they are not town meeting members necessarily,
Mhm.
but I don't understand compulsory for 2-5-1 and 2-5-2.
You don't think that
Maybe
town
I'm-
meeting members should be compelled to
Well,
attend town meeting?
yes, I do think they should be.
All right, so then we're all in agreement.
All right. got it.
He went and he got you, and he just.
There's no penalty, so.
No, right,
It's-
there's also no penalty for these folks,
Yeah.
but we want to tell them that you should be there, that is
He
your.
just reeled you into the net, he reeled you into the net.
Yeah, this is a good idea.
Mike, did you have something else, or were you? in
No, I'm
agreement?
good.
Excellent, let's take the vote on this one,
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Alan.
sorry about that. I don't know if we could do anything about it, but the very last sentence is contradictory to compulsory attendance. And it happened at just that last town meeting, and there was really no remedy for it. Is there any appetite to put in a remedy for it? If some department head and or official is not there in the time when someone would like to ask a question related to an article, sort of left out of luck.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Larry.
I have an easy answer to that. Department heads are employed by the town manager. And if the person is not there without good reason, I would hope that the town manager would take the disciplinary action that's appropriate.
Yeah, I also think that one of the consequences of someone not being there is that their article fails.
Yeah.
It's typically what I've seen happen. If town meetings can't reasonably get their questions answered, and if they feel they're still lacking knowledge on the subject, then the article will have to be revisited.
Yeah, but that's not what this says, is it?
No, well, but that's up to town meeting. We can't say town meeting, you can't vote on this. They're in fact compelled to by Mass General Law.
But is that not like saying you have to be here, but if you're not here, it doesn't matter? Right?
So the way I read this last sentence is to say that we've compelled our town meeting members to be here. We've compelled our staff to be here, other officers of the town. But if they're not, if for whatever reason they're not, whether it's a valid or invalid, it does not invalidate the votes that we take at town meeting. So I think this is fine as it is, but I'm happy to be told otherwise. let's vote on, combining the sections and then we can come back to substantive changes, if that's all right with you, Alan?
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, I wasn't expecting anything major. I just was wondering where it just happened recently, if there was any thought to put something in there to prevent it happening in the future. Thank you.
Yep, all right, let's take the vote. Mr. Bulletin,
Yes,
Mr. Hammond,
Yes,
Mr. Vaca's not present, Mr. Costello,
Yes,
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Waller's not present, Mr. Levin,
Yes,
Mr. Pfizer,
Yes.
Ms. Votrand,
Yeah,
Mr. Zuccarello is not present, and I vote yes. Again, we are unanimous here, folks. Must be second, do we have a full moon tonight or something?
well, we don't have,
All right, so. Getting back to Alan's point, I wanna make sure that, we. If there are other folks who have appetite to explore, some additional, clause here, I'd like to hear about it. Go ahead, Steve.
I have something else, which is, where it says chairpersons of boards. I think, again, it should be, or their designees. Just so that we don't have a circumstance in which, for example, the board chair is not available, I can't send the
Yeah.
vice chair or the secretary or whomever else.
Yeah,
As well, I think the importance is that the boards are represented, not necessarily that a specific individual be there.
does it say that already?
I agree with you.
it only is under. Do you think that where it does say officials designated representatives, it only refers to department heads?
So one of the things that I find odd about this, is that we have a lot of committees that
They don't have that.
don't have to be at town meeting, right?
Well, maybe.
The dog park committee probably didn't have to be at town meeting unless they were sponsoring an article. The Management Village Steering Committee, which I sit on, the chair doesn't necessarily have to be at town meeting. There are a large number of boards, commissions and committees that, and this doesn't even actually include committees. So if, for example, I was if I was not a town meeting member, I wouldn't be compelled, because this doesn't say committees, we're a committee, not a board or a commission. So I agree with you that I agree with you on some level that this is not correct. But my thing is that, I guess, to what level do we want to get here?
Well, as you look at this, the way this is written now, and Ms. Vogt made a very good point as we looked at the issue, and all departments heads or those officials designated representation, question of who the officials are in that language in.
And isn't it wonderful that vagueness would work for us? Because I think that the officials, I understand what you're saying, but it's certainly possible to argue legitimately that the officials refer to everything above.
Except it doesn't, because you have the ands intersposed. It's technically, if you were to say all town officers, the town manager, the town engineer, chairpersons of boards and commissions, the advisory and finance committee, all department heads, comma, or those officials, that would be referring to that.
that's what you should, that should be your motion.
Except that doesn't work because advisory and finance does not have designees.
Right,
Well, that's
How I know
That's
that
a
language
nuance.
wasn't intended.
right. Because then that would mean that Steve Neerman could
Designate
designate Joe Schmo from the sidewalk to come and represent.
advisory and finance.
I actually, I'm with Larry on this, I think it works as it is.
The problem I have is, again, I have, 2 years in a row, I have appeared on behalf of planning board.
Yep.
Because one year the chair was, unavailable because he had to attend a funeral. Actually, last year the chair was there, but it can happen, so there should be, since the purpose is, for example, we have the entire select board typically comes. They're not required to, but they do.
Yeah.
So right now, the way this is written, again, only the chair of the select board would have to show up.
Right.
But if the chair, for some reason, was not available, that they should be able to designate somebody. It's something that should be allowed. So that we can ensure that those bodies actually have representation that meet the requirements. That's all.
I'm fine with the motion. So what would your motion be, Steve, if you were to change this sentence?
Chairpersons of boards. I would say it's a chairpersons of boards and commissions or their designated representatives.
So it'll be all town officers, the town manager, the town engineer, chairpersons of boards.
And commissions, or their designated
Do we need to put
representatives.
committees in there? My earlier point.
Well, committees, I think would, again, we have 100 committees in town, and I think that would be, to your point, a bit overmuch.
Okay, good. So chairpersons of
But you're
boards and
leaving out-
commissions, hold on, chairpersons of boards and commissions.
Or their designated representatives.
Do you wanna do comma or their designated representatives?
It can work either with or without a comma.
Cause right now it would be. Chairpersons of boards and commissions or their designated representatives.
I think that actually works without the comma because it expresses their designated representatives refers specifically to boards and commissions.
Okay. Good, excellent, yep, yes. The advisory and finance committee and all department heads. Or,
Taking out the and.
No, you're,
yeah, I would take out that in
yeah,
Okay.
I would take out that end as well.
The end before all.
before the advisory and finance committee. And all department heads. Or their, rather than those officials.
Yeah.
Do their. So take out those officials
Right.
and put the word there. Put in the word there, THEIR. So this will now read, all town officers, the town manager, the town engineer, the chairpersons of boards and commissions or their designated representatives, the advisory and finance committee, and all department heads or their designated representatives shall attend representative town meeting sessions.
So, or their designated representatives is in there twice.
Yep, because it's only specific to the boards and commissions. Can send designated representatives and the department heads can send designated representatives. The town engineer can't send a designated representative.
Does anyone know what all town officers means?
I think that means everyone, doesn't it? Aren't I an officer in town even as a member of the Manor Village Steering Committee?
No.
No, I would,
See, I don't know. Yes, but I'm not willing to,
Go ahead, man.
I think what's happening here is, you're talking about all officers, then you go to town manager, and then you go to boards. I'm thinking that what you need to do is have a sentence that talks about, I'm gonna differentiate between town employees and people are representative of the town. So that's like the select board, the finance and advisory committee, any other committees
That are elected or appointed.
that are elected or appointed. So I think what you ought to do is you ought to say, and I don't know, I'd have to sit here and really think about the words. Have a sentence that says about people that are employees and who designates who has to show up. So you're saying the town engineer has to be there, but if the town manager for some reason decides he can't be there, he could send somebody in his replacement.
No,
No,
Well, I'm talking about hypothetical, so what the point I'm trying to make is the town manager manages the employees. And this document talks about all the elected and appointed people, and you have a sentence for that, and whoever, so who decides if, you know, for some committee, who, and the person that's the chairperson should come, but they can't come, Who, is it the chairperson that decides, that's the designated person, who decides? I just think that what you're doing is you're going back and forth between two different kind of groups of people. And I'm just trying to think, maybe you make it separate, have one statement for employees and one statement for elected and appointed officials.
Mike?
When Len, was talking, he got to the town manager or his designated representative, and you said no. So I guess my opinion would be, anybody on this list should have the ability, if they are unavailable for whatever reason, to designate a representative to represent them in their absence. So if the town manager can't be available, wouldn't it make sense for the assistant town manager to speak for the town manager?
Yeah, I understand that sentiment, and probably in practice, no one would care. But I'm not sure that we wanna let the town manager off the hook for a meeting.
Well, I mean, some things are unavoidable. He might be in the hospital or.
Yeah, right, and in that case, and that's why the last sentence in this, the absence will not invalidate the actions of town meeting. So if Derek happens to be in the hospital, or if he has a family wedding or something that will actually take him away, town meeting will go on and it will still be valid.
I'm just, from a clarity, my comment was from a clarity standpoint that you don't lump them all into one big long sentence. You have a statement about employees, and then, like I said, in the statement, and how you decide who has to be there. You say that the town engineer has to be there. I don't understand why, but if you say so, I believe you. You know, and then all the appointed boards and stuff. I just think it'd be clear, but.
Go ahead, Larry, then.
I've rethought my, all town officers doesn't mean anything and should be eliminated. Who, if we don't know who they are, how come?
Well, didn't we?
Hold on, let me go to Steve, because it's his motion that we're working on, we haven't been seconded yet, but I think you might have some quality here.
Well, first of all, as we have been sitting here, I actually Googled Plymouth town officers. And I have found that we have a whole bunch of officers who I don't think should be showing up at town meeting either. I agree. I don't think we necessarily need the animal control officer. I don't know that necessarily the assessor's office will be attending on a regular basis. Then we have a lot of boards and commissions otherwise, but we do have other quote unquote officers, so I tend to
Like
agree with
police
that.
and fire.
Well, they are,
And police was the one that
but they're
wasn't
department
there.
heads, but they are
But
department
not
heads.
the on the ground offices.
Yeah. So I will actually, so having done that, I agree with Mr. Pizer that since all town officers is an undefined term, and we don't want undefined terms sitting in our charter, I would agree to a friendly amendment.
Well, you haven't made the motion yet,
Well,
because we haven't been seconded, so you can
Well,
change it as much
so I
as you
would change it then to also say, to eliminate all town officers. Now, if we wanna reorder, and I understand Mr. Levin's point, and it's not lost on me that just from a matter of sequence, yes, it would probably make sense to say these following town employees and then these elected officials. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just a little bit more wordsmithing than I was trying to get away with at this particular time.
So let me, yes, Michelle.
Page 6 of the charter has definitions and town officer is defined.
Ah,
Page 6.
Wow.
What section?
That was so long
Page
ago.
6 of your charter that was given a copy of
For definitions,
definitions.
yeah.
What a good thought. We all should have thought.
I just found
I
that
don't
in
see it.
support of the annual town report from Amazon for the town.
Town.
It's not on page 6 of mine.
Oh,
I
God.
know it's in there somewhere.
Yeah,
under
Oh, so the
it
town,
is on page 6.
so town officer, the words town officer shall mean an elected or appointed official
Okay,
of the town of Plymouth, of the town who in the performance of his or her duties of office exercises some portion of the sovereign power of the town, whether great or small. So this is literally everyone in town.
it kind of.
It's everyone can.
Yeah, so are you looking for,
A police officer exercises,
They're agents of the town.
yeah,
are you looking for a second?
not yet.
Not yet,
So
okay.
why do we have the town engineer in here then?
The reason the town engineer is in there is because on a fairly regular basis, whenever we're talking about some form of project, there's engineering involved, and that question regularly comes up. And in terms of hiring a town engineer, it's one of those things we like to be able to point to the town charter and say, by the way, one of your duties is you're going to have to go to town meeting.
So,
So that means they hit the DPW.
And maybe there's somebody else like that.
I don't remember hearing from the
It
town.
does say all department heads, the DPW.
Steve,
Yeah.
help me out, help me out. What have they done? I don't remember hearing the town engineer.
Well, you may have heard the head of DPW.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
That's my
don't
point.
remember hearing the town engineer.
That's
Town,
right.
He,
You're
Town-
new,
town engineer is definitely,
Sid Casher used to speak all the time.
Right.
James Downing's relatively new.
he's gone.
James Downey?
Not,
So
he's
James-
gone as engineer.
Oh, yeah,
So I had thought James Downey was in DPW.
he is.
Right.
And
He is-
kind of
he was our
reported up that chain.
he was our acting town engineer because we had our prior acting town engineer.
So,
But yeah, they talked about, so for example, the last article that came up was, the traffic engineering, issue in,
Redbrook.
no, not in Redbrook, in North
Listening.
Plymouth. In North Plymouth, that article.
the reason we didn't hear from James is because Sheila was.
Sheila
the acting-
Sheila was acting, yeah.
Was the acting DPW director, having been the town.
But she was also the town engineer.
I thought that James reported to Sheila.
At that
Period
time,
of time,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, I'm just having trouble with the role here.
So the town
And,
engineer,
you know, to your point about all the agents, I mean, why are we singling this out?
so the town, so. Here's what I think we should do. I think the sentence should read,
You changed us, we said we were doing so good.
I think the sentence should read. That it should start with the town manager,
All department. Or you wanna go with town engineer?
all department heads,
Or those officially designated, or their designated representatives.
yep. Sorry, delete that, comma for a second, Michelle. And then say, or their designated representatives. Or. Or don't do or do and. Any other staff. Designated by the town manager.
Isn't that unnecessary?
Give me a second here.
Okay.
Let me wrap this up.
Yeah,
Shall attend. All representative town meetings. And then we can take the town engineer out, and then the town manager can decide if he wants the town engineer to be there.
But
That's fine.
it's kind of hard to mandate that someone who's unspecified be designated, so you're leaving up to someone's discretion as to whether, then it's not mandatory.
are you suggesting the town manager doesn't have the ability to compel any town employee to attend town meeting?
I'm not making that suggestion.
And so if,
I'm
if, he-
suggesting that we codify it.
I like this.
I would argue, if I may,
You may.
I would argue that the town engineer is in a special position because engineering department comes under the Department of Public Works.
engineering division,
So it's an engineering division?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a,
So, all right, so
So-
I don't wanna cause any controversy on this. So after where it
so he's not a
says,
department head.
so after where it says, town manager, between the comma and all, put the town engineer. comma, hold on.
I know, I'm just writing down what you said, that's all, if you want to read it here, I think this is what you said.
All right, so this sentence would now read, the town manager, the town engineer, all department heads or their designated representatives, and any other staff designated by the town manager shall attend representative town meetings.
You need to
I now
convince me
understand
that the town engineer doesn't fit. I mean, you know, Steve made me agree.
Don't blame me.
To,
You have your own mind.
to an umbrella term and strike a bunch of stuff afterward. And that's what this is, that's what you proposed earlier.
Yes.
If we're gonna, I mean,
Now,
I would hope that the town engineer would appear. I still don't think we need what you said, but I think if the town manager doesn't require the town clerk and the town engineer and probably the assessor to attend town meetings, we need a new town manager. So I don't think we
the
need
town
to,
clerk's in the department,
no, well,
she is now.
no, okay.
It has to be there anyway.
But all I'm saying is I don't think we need to include the town engineer specifically because the town engineer is gonna come.
I agree, but there were other folks who
Okay.
disagreed.
I'm assuming that there was a reason that it was put in initially. And, because it is in our existing, it's not that, I'm assuming it was there, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's because. To some degree, as we pointed out, they're not a department head, they're not this, they're not, they fall in an unusual circumstance, and yet they have a very. Preeminent role when it comes to public works and certainly. Construction projects, which are major portions of.
Lynn Barrett's a department head, yes.
Yes, finance director, yeah.
That whole reorganization, totally,
So am I right here that you left out?
I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
We haven't got.
I want us to get the language on this nailed down, then I'm gonna go to Len's second sentence, which is gonna be the boards and so forth.
so can I read what you, I think.
I'm gonna give Mike,
Oh, I'm sorry.
what I've written is, what I've said is right up on the screen.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
In this instance, I think we need to be very specific about who we think ought to be there. And I will, as an analogy, on a national scale, we're going through this right now on who is as relates to suits against, or lawsuits against Donald Trump about whether he's considered an officer for is it the 14th Amendment, I think?
Section 3.
Yeah, so we, you know, in that case, they could have been more specific, that the president is definitely included. We need, if you go to the definition of town officer, it says those, his or her duties of office exercises some portion of the sovereign power of the town. We clearly, I think, want the selectmen there. Obviously, but there are other elected, the planning board is usually there.
So, hold on, let's get to the boards next.
Okay,
And so are people fine with the employee piece? Larry has his concerns, is there anyone else who shares his concerns and thinks we ought to eliminate the designated staff by the town manager? So Larry thinks that we don't need to include the and any other staff designated by the town manager.
No, I think you need to put that in.
I think you need that in.
All right, so let's leave it in. All right, now let's move on to the boards. So Mike, is it your intention that we include specific boards?
Yeah, because if you just say all town officers, the Plymouth Redevelopment Authority is an elected board.
Yep.
Do they need to come to town
But
meeting?
they don't have sovereignty. I think the only ones that have sovereignty are the planning board and the,
What about the school committee?
Oh, you mean because
They're
they're
not part of the
mentioned
executive.
in the charter?
There, and the school committee is a department.
that's
School
interesting.
committee is
School committee-
elected.
School committee might, yeah, I think the school committee, but those are the only three. The
Well-
select board, the planning board and the school committee.
So
The
go-
executive
Joe wants
comprise-
to win.
The executive comprises select board, planning board, and the town manager.
Yeah.
And those are the folks who would be able to designate anybody else. And I would go with Steve's principle of an umbrella term that would cover all others that report upward.
Wow.
So I have Martha, then Lynn, then I'll come back. to
I
you.
just wanted to ask a simple question. By sovereignty, did you mean, as Joe was mentioning, mentioned in the charter? What did you mean by sovereignty?
Sovereignty is a, you know, a technical term of the basic power to act. The town engineer doesn't have a basic power to act. He has the opportunity to report to his superior, who doesn't have the opportunity to act. He can report to the town manager, who does have.
Essentially, it's anyone who has the authority to bind the town in something.
So are the three then the town manager,
The king
the
is
planning
sovereign.
board,
And in a
The
democracy, you
select board.
have,
And the
and
school,
you're wondering about the school?
I believe the school committee does
yeah, they.
have that.
And they're mentioned in here too, but.
So just that, so for example, my understanding of that is some people, the CPC committee made an agreement for the town that they did not have the right to do,
You bet.
right? And it didn't pass, but they tried to bind the town when they didn't have the sovereignty to do that. They didn't have the authority to do that. But I want to go to Mike's point about what is, sorry. So what you're suggesting is we should list the different boards and committees that are there and then have a general statement about anybody else that wants to attend. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
you should be specific.
So, yeah, so we,
Because I'm just one more, because for example, at next town meeting, there is part of the warrant is to give the Distinguished Visitors Committee some additional funding. So I think I'm gonna say to my committee, somebody should go there and attempt to speak for that part of that warrant, you know, if it's necessary. So, but they're not required to be there. So we figure out what boards and committees that we think should be there, planning, A&F, whatever else there is on that list, and then have a general statement that says, and any other boards or committees that may have business for the town, or whatever the right word is, I don't know.
But the question is requiring, you know,
Right,
good idea is one thing, but these are the only ones that we're talking about requiring.
Remember the other component to this, and we can talk about it, but the other component to this is that these people have the same powers as town meeting members, except as to vote, which, for example, would mean hypothetically that they have the same rights to speak as a town meeting member. Stand up in line, and the moderator can't say, well, no, I'm not gonna hear from you because I have a town meeting member speaking first. It's, no, I am an equal under our charter for that purpose.
right, yes. So I think we want this, I think we probably want the entire select board present. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shake our head.
I think so.
Yes.
And the planning board.
Pretty much yes in the room. Planning board.
So drawing this.
I'm gonna give you a look.
We're fleshing first.
Well, I mean, you agree with, so Steve needs to say this again.
coming to a screeching halt.
How did you frame
We've done.
sovereignty?
I'm just kidding.
Sovereignty,
I'll buy your beer.
sovereignty is someone who can bind the town.
There you go. That's,
So,
So again, no individual board member can bind the town, only by exercise of the entirety of the board.
and that's the principle.
That is the principle.
so then, based on the discussion we've had, we probably want the entire select board, the planning board and the school committee.
And
Yes.
the town manager.
Well, yeah, but
Now,
Yeah.
he's not.
If you list it, I mean.
We're now at elected and appointed officials as opposed to employees of the town.
Are we in agreement on those three boards?
Might not be.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm looking at chapter 4. There's 5 elected boards: selectmen, select board, school committee, housing authority, planning board, redevelopment authority. Those are, and I would argue that they all have some sovereign authority to operate under state law. I mean, they're all governed by state law. Every one of them.
This brings up stuff.
It's
And,
probably-
and the select board can't trump the school committee or vice versa. They have their sovereign authority, so
What page is that?
But does the redevelopment
27.
authority have sovereign? Does the redevelopment authority, do they exercise sovereignty? I don't think so.
they make binding decisions that can bind the town financially.
I actually don't think they can. I think they still need,
Well, they need town meeting appropriation to do anything, but
they need appropriation. They also, I don't even think the redevelopment authority can enter into a contract. I still think it has to be done by town manager.
So, but I
Mm.
mean, the point, however,
I mean, the
that,
irony is, for example, the ZBA is not mentioned. The ZBA does bind the town.
yeah, but the point is that whether they do have this or not, do we really want to compel them to come to every town
Yeah,
meeting?
we're talking about people you wanna have at town meeting.
Right, and, the housing authority probably should send someone, the redevelopment authority probably should send one, but I don't think that we need to compel them
Right.
to be at town meeting. The
Right.
question is there really going to be an issue that comes before town meeting where you say, I can't decide because I don't have the housing authority, either member or director, to give me an answer to that? The answer is only on specific articles, when they have an article, so we're not gonna compel them.
So, hold on. So let me move back to where we were earlier. So,
I think you want the entire select board there. Do you need the entire planning board there, or are you happy with a designee of the planning board? Do you want the entire school committee there, or do you want a representative of the school committee, a designate, the chair or a designate? How do people feel about that?
and I'm also, so we established that there are some committees that we want to be fully in person, fully at town meeting, right? Whether that be in person or virtual, just present at town meeting, right?
Well, I don't know that necessarily that's, I'm raising that again, because I question
Yeah.
whether or not you need the entirety of the
Yep.
planning board there, but I don't have a problem if you insist with the entirety.
So, but why, the boards and committees we've identified as having some level of sovereignty, the discussion point is whether or not they're required to be there. The advisory and finance committee exercises no sovereignty and requires the entire committee to be there
But that's because their recommendations are being presented.
by a single person. And the only person who ever taught on what the advisory and finance committee has done is their chair from the podium.
Doesn't the subcommittee, haven't the subcommittee members presented?
No, because I mean, Kevin did it the year before and I forget the new guy's name.
What,
Yeah, the new suit.
we're talking about requiring. And to Steve's point, what if we simply said, at least one member of, and I'm sorry, I'm going to include the select board. They're dumb people if they don't all show.
Yeah, that's.
But what we're requiring is at least one member of the select board, planning board, and school committee.
And A&M.
Or we could put the chair. I think
chair will
about,
designate.
yeah,
will
the
designate.
chair, a chair or designee of those three boards. And as Len said, and include advisory and finance, those are the ones who are required to be there.
So here's some words I'm trying to write down as we're saying. The school, and I'm not putting all the other grammar, the select board, the planning board, the school committee, the A&F chairperson and or designee. Along with other,
That's all, not and or designee. Shall attend, and that's not excluding anyone, because all of these people are residents of Plymouth and, invited to be at the meeting.
Or I would say, or the designees plural, so that if for some reason. The select board, the chair can say, fine, I'm designating the entire select board, so the select board has
Yeah.
has that authority. The planning board can say, okay, you know what, three of us wanna come, I'm designating these three.
I'm in agreement with them.
we don't need to manage that, that's
So-
within the particular board or committee.
That's what we're doing. We're giving each group their authority to manage themselves, to do it properly, to present as they feel best to town meeting, given what's going on at any given town meeting.
So. So are we listing these committees and only these boards and commissions? Are these the only ones that we're gonna compel? And do we need to compel the Conservation Commission?
No.
So, all right, so then yes, so then we need to just list these,
Well, conservation and board of health, for example, are mass general law mandated kinds of committees, boards. And, somewhat independent, but I don't think that they can bind the town, right?
Concom can actually, but then again, so can the Historic District Commission.
right,
But we're talking about the town, we're talking about
Well,
town
but,
meeting.
but that was Steve's principle, was binding the town.
No, I was merely defining sovereignty.
so my question is, do we list these people, these boards, and still include the vague language about chairpersons of boards and commissions? I guess, do we, like, if we just list these folks, these are the only folks that are gonna have rights at town meeting.
Right.
So if we take out the chairpersons of boards and commissions or their designated representatives in favor of just this list,
He's pointing to something I have it on.
then Concom wouldn't have rights at town meeting, including the right to talk, if they have an article.
But we could, so we still haven't gotten to that point, so we're still at the compelling stage.
Yep.
We can then say, at any other board or commission member, chair who appears, has those rights. So we don't compel them, but if they show up, then they have those rights.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Mike, and then I have some language.
I want to throw out the thought that what's really important is that the people who need to attend are the people who have articles
Right.
before town meeting. So, for example, the redevelopment.
Right, but hold on, but open space could have an article at town meeting. Do we wanna compel them to be at every town meeting?
No, well, that's, my suggestion is that we get somewhere in this language, the concept of you need to be there to support your article.
But why should we need to?
That's not,
That's
on them.
That's
if they don't show up, then their article fails, it's their own damn fault.
That's what I'm saying is, I think we only should deal with who we need, that,
They've also had 1,000 opportunities. They have advisory and finance to make their case. They have select board to make their case. They have COPC, they have the caucuses to make their case. They don't show up at town meeting,
right,
then it's their fault.
Yeah.
If their article fails.
I think you're right, that we should just talk about the people, we absolutely need to be there.
Yes.
If you have any business before town meeting, we don't need to get in and micromanage that and babysit you. If the CPC guy, what's his name, doesn't show up to defend the 5 or 6 articles under 9, so be it. You know,
The bottom line is, the purpose of this is to support town meeting. Who do we insist must be there? Not because they have a need, but because town meeting has a need
for them to be.
for them to be there.
All right, I'm ready for language.
And that's why somebody mentioned that if your article is at town, or if the town manager, that part
Yes.
is taken care of it. But for the appointed elected, we haven't taken care of that.
So,
So, all right, so I'm gonna do that now. And then then we're gonna go back later and do something else.
Okay.
Let's get through this though.
are you ready for my language?
No,
Okay.
I'm gonna do the language.
Okay.
Are you starting a new sentence?
Yes, so. The chair, well, I think it can be in the same paragraph, it's,
Make it a separate one, that's fine.
doesn't matter, yeah. Doesn't matter. So the chairpersons of. The chairpersons or their designated
Or the designated.
Designees, plural,
What it is.
designated representatives.
designated representatives.
I just keep the language the same, designated representatives.
Lost the form, doesn't
Of the select board,
You're looking at,
the planning board,
3,446,000.
the school committee,
3.5 million.
and the advisory and finance committee.
For other staff, 14.
And
This includes, you can see that this is 24.
You got it.
3,000. This includes outside consultants to provide services for private residential placements for students who have significant cognitive.
Can we, ask Alan to put himself on mute?
Alan, can you mute yourself for a second?
This
We're hearing some feedback. Thank you. Shall attend all representative town meetings. Did I capture everyone you had?
Yep. That's basically what I was gonna say.
So. And I would just capitalize representative town meetings to be consistent. So Mike, you would like to add the folks from 2 other boards, yes?
No,
Okay, great.
no, but when you know, this is what I think about when you just put in chairperson. When I was on the finance committee, this happened once. I was the first vice chair. John Moody was going to the bathroom or something. I don't know where he was. And I'm just sitting there in the audience like all the other FinCom members, and the town moderator wants John Moody. John Moody isn't there. He looks at me and he goes, "You up?" And I was like, I don't have the book. I don't know what John's gonna say. John used to have a script. And I didn't know what, so I was at a total loss. So that can happen. So my point is, if the chairperson isn't there, then the vice chair has to fill in, whether he's ready or not.
Right.
So this is just about who's supposed to show up.
So, yes, but this will eventually go into what their rights are at town meeting. So are we in agreement that the chairpersons can then, in addition to themselves, say, I want my entire board to be present?
Absolutely.
And that represents designated representatives.
Yes.
Excellent. So the chair of each of these boards and committees has to be there. But they can also designate the rest of their board or committee to be there, and then that will include them in the rights. Given to them.
But does that mean, okay. Then the word after chairpersons should be and,
I think it should be and or,
okay,
I would go with and or.
Yeah.
Because you do want to at least make sure that if the chair can't be there,
not there.
they're designating.
So, at,
above. Yeah,
chairperson
After
and or. Yeah, I agree.
Fine.
Excellent, so that includes them rather than makes them separate. Okay, so. We don't have a motion yet. What I would like to do is, I would like to then, delete the records, don't do it yet, because I know it's gonna be controversial. So what I would like to do is go back up to, section, 7, which is the rights of non-members. Which these people that we've already discussed are non-town meeting members. Yes, are we in agreement there? Correct. I would add 2-7-2. Cause this, remember, we're gonna move section 8, we're gonna combine that with section 5, so these people will be listed before this section. So 2-7-2 would read.
Yes.
All.
That makes that,
I disagree. I think
all non-members,
Non-members?
all non-represent, all.
Non-town meeting.
No, there.
You could actually go, since we have to, you could actually say all town officials in attendance.
Which is different than officers.
Oh, that's gonna be,
If we don't know who that, what, we haven't defined.
no,
I think again, I hear where you're going, you could,
Yeah. you
What
could-
we're trying to do is make sure that any committee member, board member, who would otherwise have normally been attending under the old version of this, is given the same rights. They haven't taken their rights away. That's what we're trying to. as-
Historic District Commission Chair should be able to speak before town meeting, even though he's not a town meeting.
Right.
Could you say any town official, elected or appointed?
Shall have-
Any town official, elected, appointed, or
employed.
employed?
Well, employee are different.
I don't think we want,
We don't-
I think we only want the ones that Derek.
We don't want employees, but I like, I think any town
That's
official,
right, we took
we
care
can
of
always argue whether someone is or isn't an official, but I think for the most part, we know who those people are. Elected or appointed, which gives you
And
committee
then
members.
shall have all the privileges that.
Yep.
Yes. Except the power to vote, unless they've been elected. I think that works.
Thank you for pulling out what I was trying to say.
No,
So are you
you heard
cutting
me.
it from the, down here and putting it up? You were down, I'm back down at 9.
Not the,
Shall have the privileges
So-
of representing town meeting members.
just, until,
Before this, after member.
Okay.
until the word member in that sentence, yeah. Yes,
Am I cutting it from here or just?
Yep.
copying?
yep,
Okay.
cut it and paste it up there.
Okay.
Because that still includes those members who are in section 2-8.
So we're still talking about your 27, the thing you're gonna make is called 272.
Yes, yeah.
So any town official, elected or appointed,
All right, so let's take these as separate,
okay,
separate motions. So first, can you scroll down a little bit, Michelle? Okay, so,
You have the final line, the absence of.
and I would keep that.
That makes sense, yeah.
2-8-1 will now read, the town manager, the town engineer, all department heads or their designated representatives, and any other staff designated by the town manager shall attend representative town meetings. The chairpersons and or their designated representatives, the designated representatives. And or their designated representatives.
Yeah.
I think that should be the designated representatives.
Chairpersons or there,
No, I think-
persons
yeah,
there, that's
because
correct.
the chairpersons are making.
Okay, great, yep. Or their designated representatives of the select board, the planning board, the school committee, and the advisory and finance committee shall attend representative town meetings. The absence of any such person shall not invalidate the representative town meeting.
I would actually say the absence of any such persons, plural, because we want to make sure it
Persons.
applies to both sections above.
Yep, so in line 306, we're making that persons. Okay,
So it sounds like you wanted to take out that and slash.
no, we
The
want.
chairpersons or their designated representative.
We want and order it.
We want to give them both.
Yep,
Do you want it in the previous?
no, because
because that's the town manager.
Those are town
that,
employees.
the and or allows for. Like the chairperson to not
Okay,
show
all
up.
right, fine.
All right, let's take this one first. Go ahead, Joe.
I don't know why you have the town engineer in there.
Come on.
I mean, because, you know, maybe it's that I don't understand. I mean, in my dealings with James, it felt like he reported up a chain
Yep,
and his job was not comprehensive.
let me ask you this, Joe.
Yeah,
If it remains in there, will you vote against it?
I will,
Okay,
because of the principle that Steve, I mean, I like the umbrella, you made me do this. You
Keep blaming me.
Yeah, so I, that makes sense to me and throwing him in there. And now if he can sell me on his function, then I'm okay.
I'm in agreement with you, Joe, because I think that the town manager could then say.
Yeah,
That the town engineer has to show up when it's pertinent to his or her job function.
exactly.
I agree.
All right,
Can I make a suggestion to this? Joe, can we leave it in for now? Let's go figure out why it was put in the first place. And if
Sure, I
we
mean,
come back and take it out.
as long as you can sell me on the function, I'm good.
This actually precedes my town employment for the town
So it's more
engineer
than
to
30.
be there. But, yeah, early,
Then it may have been,
but it was just a matter of, at one point, somebody wanted to talk to the town engineer.
The town engineer may have been the DPW director back then, to be
Yeah.
honest.
It might have been. we didn't
Let's
have-
take out the town engineer. And then, Joe, I'm gonna ask you to make this motion.
I'll make, so moved.
Excellent. Is there a second?
I hate to second what he does, but in this instance,
I think Mr. Bulletin beat you to the second. So,
I said it because I started this stupid thing for some reason.
all right, so, the motion's been made by Mr. Hutchinson, it's been seconded by, Mr. Bulletin. Is there any discussion? Mike?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair,
Yep, I'll come to you in a second, Alan. We've
Okay,
got Mike
thank
and
you.
then I'll come to you. Thank you for pointing that out.
I don't like taking the sentence, they shall have all the privileges of representative town meeting members and putting it in a different section. It's appropriate, I think, to leave it where it lies.
But that section is literally called rights of non-members.
I understand.
So just like you combine, the two attendances, we're now combining the two clauses that relate to the rights of non-members.
I'm not changing my mind.
All right, that's fine. Vote against it if you don't like it. Mr. Costello,
yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, excuse me. On line 300, can we put a new sentence that all representative officials must remain during the duration or for the total duration of the session?
yeah, let's take this as is, and then, if you wanna add that, Alan, cause in the room, we had some head shaking, let's vote this as is, and then we can edit it after in a separate motion if that's the.
Okay,
pleasure.
very good, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, hearing and seeing none, Mr. Bulletin,
Yes.
Mr. Hamlin,
Maybe.
yes or no, please, or abstain.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kavako is not present. Mr. Costello,
Yes,
Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes.
Mr. Levin,
Yes,
Mr. Waller is not present. Mr. Kaiser,
yes.
Ms. Boateng,
Yes.
Mr. Dupro is not present. I will vote yes as well. We are unanimous again. Alan, do you have some, a suggestion? Like, how would you word it?
well, I'd just like it to appear somewhere that if you are invited or if you've been asked to go to town meeting, that you remain at town meeting throughout the entire session.
Are you gonna impose that also on town meeting members?
Not so much on town meeting members, but for all these other people that would be helping us get to the bottom of certain articles.
Well, if town meeting members are compelled to be there and other people are compelled, to, why are you only requiring one group to stay and not the other?
Because I may not need an individual from precinct 17 that has to go to a family event at 3 o'clock. But I do need the chief of police to answer a question for me regarding an article.
Yeah, so I kind of think this already does it, to be honest. It says that they shall attend all representative town meetings, and earlier we defined representative town meetings as any and all, I forget the exact language, but it
All
says,
All sessions.
let's see here. Where were we? So it says, each calendar day during which any portion or portions of a town meeting or meetings is are conducted shall be deemed a single representative town meeting session. So I think this does do that already. Is there anyone, yeah, go ahead, Martha.
Alan, one thought is that
Yes, go ahead.
in the, town meeting handbook, it should be clear, or someplace, maybe in the charter handbook, that everyone, town meeting members and all town officers, et cetera, anybody who is required to attend, stay for the whole meeting. And,
That should be the expectation. I
right,
agree.
that is an expectation.
All right, if that's the feeling, that's fine. I just thought there should be, it doesn't safeguard town meeting for someone to come in and leave before lunch. And I just thought you could take care of the last sentence by assuring that any representative from the town that may be talking about an article will be there to answer your questions. That's all. But I'm not gonna hold up the thing for that, the process for that. I just thought there should be we've made a start. Everyone, these people should come. Now we should say they should stay. That's all.
Hey, Alan, would you be willing to craft some language that we could put in front of the group, at a separate session? Because it seems like there's, hesitance to make this specifically aimed at, town
Other than town meeting.
officials, rather than town officials and town meeting members. Can you take a look at the language and shoot me a draft, and then we can put it to the group in a future meeting?
Sounds good. I'll do that.
I agree with you. Anyone who is required to be at town meeting should be at town meeting the whole day. And in future sessions too. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, town meeting members should be there, because that's what their job is, to be there at town meeting.
Yes.
If they have enough, I mean, unless it's a death in the family or a sickness, I mean, yeah, a wedding could be scheduled. But I mean, officials, if they don't have any business before the town, before noon time, do they need to sit there and listen to all that? I don't know what the answer is. I'm just asking the question.
No, I think they should be there. I just don't think, I think we are.
But I think we're micromanaging in the charter attendance, and I don't think we should be micromanaging attendance in the charter.
Alan's gonna come up with a proposal, and we'll come back to this at a later session.
Sounds good.
It's 8:01. We have two other sections that are on the agenda here tonight. 2-9, which is, oops, very short, and 2-11, which is about 3/4 of a page. I suggest that we at least do 9, and I think it's gonna energize you folks through 11. But we'll see where we get at the end of 9. Is that, does anyone object to that?
No.
Excellent. Excellent. I do want to go back up to 2-7-2, because I did say we're gonna take those as separate votes. So the way that 2-7-2 would read, oops, hold on, I'm having a hard time here with this computer. 2-7-2 would now read, all town officials, elected or appointed, shall have all the rights and privilege, shall have all the privileges of representative town meeting members, except the power to vote, unless they have been elected to the office of town meeting representative, or representative town meeting member.
Should all votes be cast?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you.
Does anyone have feedback on this as written?
Love the way it's written. Don't agree with where it's being put.
I appreciate that you have still stayed strong with us, Mike, despite your hesitancy. Excellent. Will someone make the motion to approve 2-7-2 as written?
So moved.
Mr. Bolton makes the motion.
I second it.
Mr. Levin seconds the motion. Is there further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the roll. Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon.
No,
It's all right. Ms. Kavako is not present. Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler is not present. Mr. Levin,
Yes.
Mr. Pfizer,
Yes.
Ms. Botrain,
Yeah,
and I vote yes as well. The motion passes in a vote of 7 in favor and 1 against. All right. Section 9, 2-9-1, the town clerk shall notify forthwith the precinct sorry, move around a little. The town clerk shall notify forthwith the precinct of any vacancy which occurs in the precinct delegation.
Is there a specific, you say notify the precinct, should there be a specific person identified? Precinct chair, perhaps, or
I think that's probably who they will.
that's who they
in
will?
practice.
That's what they've done to me.
That's always what they do, but I just because it's sort of generic, I always.
But what if the vacancy is in the precinct chair?
Ooh.
I think
Then it's the vice chair, but that's fine.
it's fine as is.
So what's the purpose of this?
To make the precinct chair go chasing for a replacement.
No, I understand that, but I mean,
Well,
does this belong in the town clerk section?
No, because there's there's other things about this whole section that goes.
I guess I'm not sure what it's accomplishing, that's what I guess, I'm.
It might be, I forget where I put it, I might have put it in the town clerk section. I can't remember.
I think this is specific to vacancies, but go on.
Well, to Joe's point, well, I forget what Joe's point was.
It's good, I
It's
can't
8
remember
o'clock.
where I put it.
Yeah.
It was so long ago.
Yeah,
5 minutes ago.
not a good sign.
No.
It'll come back to me in a second.
We're gonna do an exercise in numbering that we will then present to you folks, so I don't think we need to belabor it. If we're fine with the language, let us come up with a recommendation for numbering.
I now remember.
Go ahead, Mike.
what it was. So this is not about the precinct chair chasing around for members to replace a vacancy or to fill a
Right.
vacancy, because the process is specific. It goes to the next highest vote getter in the last election.
Right, which
And
is
you-
covered by 2-9
But then there's additional things, what if that doesn't happen and that doesn't go to the town clerk any longer? Then it's if it doesn't happen, then the person who received the highest most, then you can go to.
I know, the chasing for members goes after all the other options are eliminated.
Right.
yeah, but, you know, the precinct needs to know who the members of its caucus are, however they're filled. So this is not simply to tell them so they can fill the caucus. This is to say, remember Mike? You're not gonna see him anymore, and
Yep.
and then, you know, the clerk probably at that point will say, and here's how I'm planning to proceed to fill the vacancy.
I would add a
But it's important that the precinct, there have been times when the precinct called the clerk and said, where, you know, who are my people?
Yes.
I'll add a second on top of that. It's important that the clerk notify, because what happens if Mike shows up and Mike isn't eligible anymore?
Right.
They should know that too.
Well, that's.
As
what we're gonna-
occasionally happens with our committees.
So this is basically just the mechanism that says the clerk receives a letter of resignation.
Yeah, this is the how.
And that she is supposed to then notify that specific precinct that she received a letter of resignation. Or the person was removed from the role because they moved out of town.
Yes.
Or a death certificate, or
Or
whatever,
whatever.
whatever the means that there's no longer, yeah.
Okay. And then the rest of it is just procedure of how they decide who the next person is. So can I make a motion?
No, they're a rule.
I make a motion, we don't touch either one.
Well, we don't have to make a motion.
Motion to
They're not change, so I don't wanna go through the process.
I know.
I think if the language is fine, let's move on to 2-9-2. Excellent. 2-9-2, the person who received the highest number of votes among the unsuccessful representative town meeting member candidates at the most recent election in the precinct shall fill the vacancy until the next regular election. If such person declines or is unable to fill the vacancy, the person who received the next highest number of votes among the unsuccessful representative town meeting member candidates at the most recent election shall fill the vacancy. If the vacancy cannot be filled in this manner, meaning they'll go through every single person who received any votes, the precinct caucus delegation shall vote to fill the vacancy. if necessary, the town clerk shall call members of the precinct caucus delegation together by written notice and shall conduct the election.
I'm happy with it the way it reads.
Does it need to be until the end of the term of the vacancy that's being filled?
Well, it actually, if
It's
you go
for
by,
the
it
next
says
election.
until the next regular
It's
election.
until the next election.
And I think
Yes,
the
there's
the next section should say the same thing.
Right, but so let's say that this is so the vacancy is for someone who
It's 2 years left.
has 2 years left. Are we electing 4 town meeting members at that next regular election?
3 town meeting members and an unexpired term. So
The
there are
answer
2
is
separate
yes.
elections.
Okay. Great.
Wait a minute, explain that.
I can't, it's too late.
So what he
Not
said
after-
is, what he said is.
Yeah, we're electing 4 town meeting members.
But in 2 elections. In other words, it's not 1, 2, and 3 get 3-year terms and the next one gets a 1-year term. It's that there are 2 separate elections. There's 1 election for 3 town meeting members.
Yes.
For
One
a
election,
3-year term.
unexpired term.
And then a completely separate election that people have to take out papers for separately for the 1-year term or 2-year terms or
For the
whatever the
unexpired.
unexpired term is.
Like the term.
Yes, okay.
However, there is one more point that we're missing on this, and it's actually happened. What happens if the next person on the list is legitimate, you know, his name is actually there and he has the number of votes that are gonna qualify him, and he doesn't respond, doesn't say. So I would like to add, after vacancy, if a person declines or is unable to fill the vacancy, or 30 days pass without response, or it could be, you choose the number.
10 days.
Yeah,
10 is
I'm with you,
10 is fine, as long as it's a specific number of days.
because that's happened to me, and you're right, 10 days, I mean, you need somebody in there.
Then if I may,
Yeah,
would move that we, after the word vacancy in the 4th line, 4th line, add, or 10 days pass without response.
10 days past, PASS.
Pass.
Pass, PASS, yes.
10 calendar days, business days.
Calendar.
10 days.
10 days means calendar as far as I'm.
Yeah, and I think that's how we've defined it.
That's always the way it's defined unless you state otherwise, it's
Yeah.
defined as calendar.
Right. Mr. Pryor makes the motion, is there a second?
Is that all, so it's, well, excuse me, I'm sorry, 10 days pass without response? That's the word?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Comma.
It's up on the screen.
Oh, I know, but I can't read it online.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, should we, at the same time, can we just add, after the vacancy and the next, until the next. As matching the language, until the next regular election, matching the language above it.
Regular town election.
Until
Or,
the person who receives the next highest number.
So you're talking about in the sentence on, that starts, if the vacancy cannot be filled in this manner?
Shall fill the vacancy,
The one
not
above.
period, but until the next election.
You're right, so fill the vacancy until the next regular election, just like it says in the sentence before.
Okay, so this will then read,
I'm sorry, yeah, 312 ends until the next regular election. I would copy that language to the end of
the present sentence.
the present tense that we're working on, yes.
I don't know.
Alright, so copy, on line 12, or sorry, on line 311, shall fill the vacancy.
That's 312, until the next regular election. See the words, until the next regular election on 312?
Shall fill the.
No, you don't have to fill it, just until the next regular election, that's the words, copy those. And on 315, after the word vacancy, before the period, paste.
You're behind the line. Sorry. Do Control Z.
Oh, okay.
Okay, does that also need to go in the next sentence as well? If the vacancy cannot be filled in this manner, the precinct caucus delegation shall vote to fill the vacancy until the next regular election?
Yes.
One could argue it's redundant, but whatever,
Well, it's repetitive.
not wrong. Repetitive, yeah.
It's repetitive,
Sorry, I'm an
not-
engineer.
it's-
I am too.
But it's not redundant,
Well, it's,
because you're talking about three
Three
different
different-
scenarios, each scenario has to have the same result.
right, I mean, you can't sit there and kind of make a general statement in the beginning and then apply it, you could if you.
Or we could add a sentence that says any vacancy filled will only be until the next election, but
And leave it.
I'll leave it to you folks.
Just leave it.
Alright, so 2-9-2 would now read, the person who received the highest number of votes among the unsuccessful representative town meeting member candidates at the most recent election in the precinct shall fill the vacancy until the next regular election. If such person declines or is unable to fill the vacancy, or 10 days pass without response, the person who received the next highest number of votes among the unsuccessful representative town meeting member candidates at the most recent election shall fill the vacancy until the next regular election. If the vacancy cannot be filled in this manner, the precinct caucus delegation shall vote to fill the vacancy until the next regular election. If necessary, the town clerk shall call members of the precinct caucus delegation together by written notice and shall conduct the election. Do we have a motion? Len makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Votrain, seconds the motion. All right, redrafting. 2-9-2. All right, is there any further discussion over there? Hearing and seeing none, I'll proceed to the vote. Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Ms. Cavaco is not present, Mr. Costello,
Mr. Costello, yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler is not present, Mr. Levin,
Yes.
Mr. Piper,
Yes.
Ms. Votrain,
Yes,
Mr. Zucrow is not present, and I vote yes as well. We're back on track with the unanimous vote. All right. Did we finish 2-9?
We did.
Yes.
It is now 8:17. Do we think that we can do?
You can, but I don't think we should. I'm going to,
Yeah.
with sadness, move to adjourn.
Let's not move to adjourn, let's move to table
Okay,
2-11, if that's all right with you, Larry.
that's fine.
All right, Mr. Kaiser motions that we table 2-11. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Hutchinson seconds. Is there discussion on the matter? Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Bulletin,
No.
Mr. Hanlon,
No.
Ms. Cavaco is not present, Mr. Costello.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. What was the vote on?
So we're deciding whether or not we're gonna table 2-11.
The table 2-11, no.
This is not looking good.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Law is not present, Mr. Levin,
No.
Mr. Pfizer,
Yes.
Ms. Votrain,
yes.
and I am going to vote no as well. We're gonna continue with 2-11.
I'm gonna have to put my coat on.
If folks need to leave, that's okay.
They turned the heat up.
We will,
Down at 7:30.
we would still have quorum, if those folks who voted no left, so we would still continue the meeting.
It's okay.
All right, and just let me know where we would stand if that were the case. All right, 2-11, we will start with, we're gonna skip 2-10, Michelle. 2-11. 2-11-1, the representative town meeting members from each precinct shall, within 20 days following each town election, meet and elect from among their own precincts representative town meeting members, a chairperson, a vice chair, oh, is this, did we add this already? No, sorry. A chairperson, a vice chairperson, and a clerk to serve for a term of 1 year. And shall file notice of such organization with the town clerk. If the town clerk fails to receive a notice of organization within 21 days following a town election, the town clerk shall immediately call a meeting of representative town meeting members from such precincts that have failed to organize for the purposes of organizing. Is there any discussion on that particular clause? Hearing and seeing none, we'll go on to 2-11-2. Each precinct delegation shall hold a caucus meeting for the purpose of reviewing subject matter of the upcoming representative town meeting. Caucus meetings may be held in conjunction with other precinct delegations. Is there discussion on that item?
I raised the question for discussion. Should we, this basically requires 2 caucus meetings a year.
Correct. Well,
Maybe
three.
more if there's a special.
Three. It requires an organization meeting plus the 2 meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
But should we require just 1 per quarter? Should we? And I know this goes against my general goal of stating we should give responsibilities and not tell people how to do it. But at the same time, should we set a minimum standard? Doesn't mean that they can't meet more often, and many do, and we hope that, but just to at least set a minimum standard so that there is at least some level of consistency. And I raise it for discussion purposes.
My chair, who I support, is nuts, and we have a monthly meeting, in precinct 3. Yet, that's a decision of each group, and I think that while precinct 3 is where it all began and the best precinct and all that sort of thing, I don't think that we should require other people. I think that if they have something to do, there certainly are examples around town. Precinct 17 has shown quite a bit of energy as well. But they're gonna hear about it, they can meet, that I don't think we should make.
Sure.
Okay, so. I'm not sure how to formalize language about it, but there's definitely, I mean, I just add this for the table. There is a definite inclination on some part of some precincts to not have more than the 2 required, the organizational and the preparation. It feels to me like maybe you should have 1 more than that, at least. I mean, and I'm not sure how to, I agree with Larry that it maybe shouldn't be mandatory, but there's something there that says maybe it should. Okay, Mike has a.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joe yielded to you.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm looking for an excuse.
so when I was precinct chair of 15, I was an advocate for meeting more frequently. Because it's my belief that there is a lot of town business going on that we could learn about.
You bet.
And understand. Some of it might come to town meeting, some of it might not. I mean, for example, the wastewater treatment plant seems to be getting a lot of attention lately. The proposed expansion and changing the discharge location. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come to town meeting, unless they need money. But it's an important issue for the town.
Right.
That's as an example. So I got nothing but pushback from people that, no, we don't wanna meet. And we brought it up even at the last precinct caucus last October, and it was kind of split. I think there was more people who wanted to meet in between the 2 town meetings than there were people who didn't, but it's still a struggle because in some cases, the chair, who, one could argue, controls the agenda, doesn't want to meet. So,
The
yeah,
other,
I'm in favor of more meetings, whether it's mandated or not. And I wondered, I made a note here, does this language preclude, it says you gotta meet twice, you gotta have the organizational meeting, you gotta meet before the 2 town meetings. I'm assuming it doesn't preclude town caucuses from having other meetings.
Yeah.
So we don't need to specify or give them permission to have other meetings,
No, I-
unless we want to make it like we suggested, once a quarter.
I'm gonna try and give Joe the reason he wants.
well, I mean, the other thing that I was gonna add is that I believe that one of the jobs of the caucus is to engage the community. And, if you only do this twice, per town meeting, then, you're limiting the opportunity to do that. I mean, so, to your point about the issue, that's a mechanism, that's an opportunity to get more voters out. That's kind of how I look at this.
It's a combination. It's not only what it is that the caucus wants, but it's the fact that these are town meeting, you are representatives of your community. The community should be entitled to a minimum of your time as well. The only way the community gets a chance to truly engage with town meeting, with the entirety of caucus, is a caucus meeting. Otherwise, they have to call town meeting members individually to express their opinion on things. The whole point of having the caucus meeting is not just for town meeting members to talk amongst themselves or to hear about what they want to hear about, but it's also an opportunity for the residents to express their concerns and their viewpoints. And we should be, as much as I don't like doing it, we should be, because we have instances where it doesn't happen frequently enough, we should be mandating a minimum to protect the residents, not just to address the town meeting members and their desires, but to say, I know you may not want to meet, but frankly, your constituents would like to hear, would like to express their rights to you.
Right.
It's like turning around and saying, well, okay, well, the select board doesn't have a meeting this week because we have nothing to really, we don't feel like talking. No. You need to hear from the residents as well. Town meeting has that same obligation, and this is a minimum. And as much as I don't want to do it because I don't like dictating the how as opposed to the why or the reasoning, the responsibility, in this instance, because we have such a disparity between some caucuses and another, I thought it was worth raising the idea of having, and nothing crazy, but once a quarter just doesn't seem to be an unreasonable thing to ask.
So, okay,
So can I propose some language for what you want?
You may always.
Okay, so I'm suggesting that, I'll read it, each precinct delegation shall hold caucus meetings at a minimum of 4 times a year, in addition to the sessions held to prepare for the town meeting. And for the purpose of reviewing the subject matter, I would just take that out.
so I would actually do 2-11-4 and say in addition to,
We already have it 2 days.
yeah, no, I know, but I'm gonna eliminate that at our next. Motion.
Okay,
2-11-4 to be in addition to the organization meeting and the two
preparation.
to the organization meeting, yep. Or organizational caucus meeting.
Caucus organization.
So
Why would you do it as a separate section?
that was gonna be my question.
Well, because the other two. Because the other two required meetings are already separate.
Okay.
So we have an organization meeting, and then we have the two preparation meetings.
Is that organizational or organization?
So it says,
Organization, yeah, that's it.
Chairperson,
File notice of such
it
organization.
says organization, yeah. If.
Well,
Yeah,
that's found notes of the organization. That's not saying, that's saying who's the clerk, the vice chair and chairperson.
yeah,
So
so,
what you would basically say is that in addition to the meetings set forth in, and you identified
Yes.
211-1
Yep.
and 211-2.
in addition to, yes, so actually, remove everything after the word the in that sentence.
Everything after the word the, in this new sentence?
In the new sentence, yep.
Remove that.
In addition to the meetings described in 2-11-1 and 2-11-2. Each precinct delegation shall hold at least one additional meeting. And I'm gonna say, based on the conversation we had, for the purposes of engaging the public.
Or their precinct, their town, their.
You didn't say the frequency.
They're open to everybody, so it's, I say not just for the purpose of engaging the public, but the public may have, get someone from another precinct may have an interest in something that's going on there.
Or communicating with. the public.
Communicating with the residents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last, it should be at least instead of a least. The last, there you go.
And the word described is incorrectly spelled too.
Okay, is purpose, should it be, not purposes, should it be purpose?
Purpose, yep.
And describe.
You say one additional meeting, but shouldn't it be two, because otherwise.
No, because we have 2 different meetings. Because we're talking about doing 4 meetings, right?
Right.
So the first meeting is organizing, that happens in,
But the ordinance, the 211-1 only requires you to meet to organize, they could literally meet to organize and say, we're not having any business.
yep,
So,
I'm trying to, I'm suggesting 4 meetings a year, 4 substantive meetings a year.
okay,
and you're
So I would
saying,
suggest 2 additional meetings.
I have no objection to that.
so you're saying 2 meetings to prepare and 2 other meetings for just a general meeting. As
And one,
opposed,
and then 1 organizational meeting.
as
So
opposed
there would be
to
5
4,
total, and that's not that many.
as opposed to 4 general meetings and 2 preparation meetings.
Correct, but the preparation meeting can also include general
Okay,
discussion.
I'm just
So-
saying.
That's okay.
In Mike's situation, where neither the chair nor the members necessarily want to meet and don't show up and don't have a quorum.
This is precisely why.
I guess that's what'll happen.
What,
But but then the residents have the right to know that their town meeting members don't want to show up and don't have a quorum.
Okay.
Yep. Got it, right.
I've been to, as an article proponent and as a FinCom member, I've been to a lot of precinct caucuses. Many of which, more than I would like, did not have a quorum, and they still met regardless.
To listen to the presentation.
Yeah.
They can't
They may
conduct
not
any
even vote on
business,
it.
but at
They
least
didn't-
that's
they
better
didn't
than
make
nothing.
any decisions, they didn't vote on anything, but
Okay.
they didn't have a quorum. So, and I don't think there's any, haven't seen anything here that requires that they have a quorum.
well, it's not a meeting.
Except if they're electing a chairperson or,
No,
electing
it's not-
officers, they gotta.
It's not a meeting though.
Yeah, we had
can't
a
call it to order.
situation in which we listened to people, but there were no minutes, it wasn't called to order.
Right.
It was just a bunch of people sitting around. And that, so it wouldn't qualify.
Gotcha.
So I would have, I have a couple of meetings coming up where, we will be at another town event.
Yeah.
Managed by another board, and I will want them to be a quorum, because I will have voted. And that would count as meetings, So I'm wondering, I mean, the purpose of what we're talking about is to engage the public.
Yep.
And this is not necessarily to engage the public, so I wanna target the idea of public engagement somehow in this language. And not allow me or anybody else to get off the hook.
Yeah, this is, so. I'm gonna do two things in this single motion. I'm gonna suggest that we strike 2-11-4, which reads, the precinct chairpersons shall meet together within 45 days following each town election. And shall organize the committee of precinct chairs, electing a chairperson and a clerk. Because we, in our previous meeting, instituted, 2-X-2, which states that the committee of precinct chairs shall within 30 days. Following each town meeting, meet and elect from among their members, a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and a clerk to serve for a term of 1 year. So we've already, so now this 2-11-4 is needed, so I'm gonna suggest that the motion be that we strike 2-11-4 and replace it with, in addition to the meetings described in 2-11-1 and 2-11-2, each precinct delegation shall hold at least 2 additional meetings for the purposes of engaging the public. Will someone make that motion?
So moved.
Mr. Hutchinson makes the motion. Is there a second? Mr. Bolton, seconds the motion. Is there discussion?
Read the very end of it again. Okay.
In addition to the meetings described in 2-11-1 and 2-11-2, each precinct delegation shall hold at least 2 additional meetings for the purposes of engaging the public. Go ahead, Barry.
I'm amused to say that we hold meetings, they're quite useful, and we hardly ever engage the public. So to
Is that because
say,
they don't come?
yep,
But that's not the purpose of this, sorry. This is the purpose is, that's the reason to hold the meeting. We're not gonna be able to mandate people showing up. But we've given them the opportunity to show up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, we had somebody come here and tell us that we should be making the charter to get more people to vote. We can't do that.
Yeah. Finish your point, please, Barry.
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay, I think we're attempting something, it is a good idea to engage the public. Mandating that we engage the public, in this way is not something that appeals to me. And not because I don't think the public should be engaged, just because I don't think that the mandate is the answer.
It was Mike, and then I think, Martha, do you have your hand up as well?
Is the answer?
Okay.
Yeah. I believe the purpose of the meetings is to educate and inform town meeting members so that they're more engaged with what's going on in the community. They understand what's going on. There are fewer surprises. Engaging the public should be part of all of the meetings to the extent that they want to be engaged. And, we have in precinct 15 and 16, part of 15, part of 16, we have this newsletter that goes out put out by Pine Hills. There's a post in there.
When you're having the call.
The caucuses.
Yeah.
So that goes to, how many residents? There's 2,500 homes. If you count the apartments, there's probably 5,000 or 6,000 people that email would go to.
Right.
And yet, almost nobody shows up. So I don't know how, engaging the public is a good topic for discussion. I don't know how to do
Well, get into battle with Mr. Green. I mean, we got 80 people coming to the caucus because of ADM's proposal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and,
there's an event that often can inspire a lot of people to come, and they'll keep coming, I hope. I'm hoping that they keep coming, you know?
Well, but I mean, the purpose of this is to make sure that the caucuses do more than just meet to deal with town meeting. to basically give the public an opportunity to come in and just have a open discussion about things to help clarify things, like the thing with the sewage. There was somebody made a mention at the COPC that they're dumping sewage into the ground, and that's not what they're doing. And so I think it's good to have that. I mean, again, we're telling them what we think the purpose of those meetings are, and to do your best to try to figure out a way. We have somebody that does the heavy lifting for us in the Pine Hills, but to find a way to, you know, hopefully get more people to be involved in what's going on in this town. It's, you know.
Let's go, Steve, and then I'll come back to you, Joe.
I'll put it in sort of very pedestrian terms. What I'm trying to say here is town meeting caucuses should have office hours. There should be a minimum time that they are available to the community. They can meet, they can literally get together, nobody is there, and they can say, okay, you know what? Nobody's here and we don't have anything to talk about, we're out of here. And that's fine. But at a minimum, they should be, the whole point is that the public shouldn't be subject to the determination of their precinct caucuses as to whether or not they have representation. Whether they have the opportunity to express themselves to their representatives. There should be, because they can't come to town hall and say, I want to talk to my precinct chair and my caucus. They can't go somewhere, they can't go, there isn't a regular meeting scheduled that they can say, okay, I know that on this day, every once a month, I know if I have an issue, I can go there and talk. Or here, they don't have that opportunity, so it's just trying to create a minimum standard. But I understand that I'm having a hard time with it myself because of what I'm asking to do is antithetical to what I've always proposed in the charter. But nonetheless, it's just too important. If town meeting is going to function, it has to be able to function.
I have some comments, and then we'll go to Joe and Martha. You're right, they can't come to town hall and talk to their chairperson, but they have my home address, my email address, and my telephone number right on the website. So they can certainly get in touch with me as their precinct chair. What you said, Steve, is precisely my concern with mandating these two meetings. My precinct is active, and Joe's precinct is active, 3 is active.
What precinct are you in?
I'm in 7. But there are precincts that have trouble even making a quorum. They can't even get their members to show up at these meetings. And I think that the remedy to that is not to mandate more meetings. I think the mandate to that is to elect people who are gonna show up. So I'm concerned that if we institute additional meetings where we have people, town meeting members show up for the purposes of engaging the public, and then no public shows up, we're gonna make it even harder to get our town meeting members to attend our caucuses. So that's my main concern with instituting these additional 2 meetings. There's nothing that prevents town meeting caucuses from meeting. You can meet every single day of the year if you wanted to. So I have reservations about moving this forward, similar to Larry's. I'm gonna go Joe, then Martha, then Mike.
I mean, just to Len's point earlier, I mean, I had education of the public and frankly of the new members in precinct 17 as a motive for having multiple meetings. And so education is a motive both as education for the members and as outreach to the community. And in fact, I've been to meetings at the Pine Hills where the League of Women Voters gave presentations, and it was a major league turnout, I thought. I think Lau was there, I don't think you were there.
Right,
But
What was
it was,
that meeting about?
one of the
it was,
proposed charter education
Oh, okay.
meetings.
right. So when, when those kinds of opportunities arise, people show up.
Martha?
I was wondering if there might be improved attendance if a second meeting related to the articles that are going to be on town meeting. if there were two meetings, then, you know, that would give a definite focus from the point of view of, the precinct chairs for setting up the meetings. And there's usually so much information. I mean, it's not just one or two articles, it's a lot of articles usually.
Yeah.
Certainly could be extended to two meetings, and then maybe more people would, be different nights, there might be more people that would be able to attend.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
some
I'm
people-
thinking of it, that if we don't say the engaging of the public, and even the idea of just having two meetings before town meeting might help.
Mike?
Yeah, the point I think you made, David, was that, you know, if we're trying to engage the public and we have precinct caucuses and nobody shows up, well, what are we achieving? That's in part why I believe that it's the engaging the public part is important, but it's secondary to educating and engaging and informing town meeting members so that they're aware of what's going on.
Mr. Costello, do you have anything on this one?
Yeah, I was just hoping that there's an opportunity to split the question. You're trying to get rid of 211-4 and add the new language all in one vote, sir?
So you wanna eliminate 2-11-4 and then separately take up a new 2-11-4 with this language?
I would only because I couldn't vote yes if they're together, but on their own merits, I would vote separately.
Okay, all right, I'm fine with that. I don't remember who made the motion. Joe, would you be fine separating it? Joe, will you withdraw your motion?
I can, if you would,
I'll get back on track.
okay, I withdraw a motion.
And who seconded? Will you withdraw your second? Thank you. All right, so let's start with 2-11-4, eliminating it. I think I've already made the case for eliminating it. Will someone make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Levin makes the motion. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Mr. Hanlon seconds the motion. Is there any further discussion on striking 2-11-4? Go ahead, Mike.
So you said that language now becomes part of 2-X.
So I'm actually keeping that separate from this all together at this point. We'll make a new motion that will address that right afterwards.
Yeah.
So this is just the strike 2-11-4 as it exists in the current charter.
Because we've already put it in some.
Yeah, that's what you want. Yeah.
Where, yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'm gonna call the roll. Mr. Bulletin?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Ms. Cavaco is not present. Mr. Costello?
Yes,
Mr. Hutchinson?
Abstain.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Lawler is not present. Mr. Levin?
Yes.
Mr. Piper?
Yes.
Ms. Hansberry?
Yes,
Mr. Zuccarelli is not present, and I vote yes. The motion carries with 7 in favor and 1 abstention. All right, so the new motion would be, let's see here. Just keeping track of all my votes here. We've taken a lot more than we usually do, so I have to add some lines. All right. So the new motion would be to add a new 2-11-4, which would state, in addition to the meetings described in 2-11-1 and 2-11-2, each precinct delegation will hold at least 2 additional meetings for the purposes of engaging the public.
And I think establishing for the purposes of engaging the public, I'm willing to agree with others. If we're mandating meetings, that's probably pushing it as is, but actually telling them what they have to do at a meeting is probably even a step too far from this.
So 2 additional meetings and strike the rest of the language.
That would be my suggestion.
Is there, I'm seeing some head nods.
Yeah.
You're okay with that? Okay. So we would end the sentence at at least two additional meetings.
And leave it to their discretion as to what they do with those.
Will someone make the motion to add the new 2-11-4? Mr. Levin makes the motion, Mr. Hamlin seconds. Is there further discussion now on this particular motion?
Tim will be proud of us.
So, you know, this has language, about the committee of precinct chairs. What are you gonna do with that?
That was from our previous,
Okay.
we put it in the proposal in one of our previous meetings. So I'll just read it again. So, you're talking about the motion to strike that language, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so in the previous session, we created 2-X-2, which is the committee of precinct chair shall meet within 30 days following the
okay,
election. And so,
okay, got it.
yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Just one last pitch with respect to this particular language, because we are. People are saying, okay, I'm not happy, I don't like the idea of telling the precinct what they have to do. 2-11-1 tells the precinct what they have to do, they have to organize. 2-11-2 tells the precinct that they have to meet to discuss the articles. There's nothing wrong with telling them that they have to meet a little bit more often than that. Otherwise, if you're gonna take that position, then let's eliminate 2 and tell the precinct caucuses they can meet whenever the hell they want or not meet. But if you're going to take an absolute position, that's an equally valid argument to saying, no, we're not going to dictate. If we're going to dictate something, we should at least dictate at least enough to make it work as best as it can. There's my reductio ad absurdum argument. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll proceed to the vote. Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Sir,
Mr.
one
Ham.
question, Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Sorry.
one question.
Go ahead, Alan.
If we're gonna go forward with this vote, can we put what's the mechanism for monitoring, enforcing, and penalizing if it's not done?
Let's take that separate, Alan. We'll discuss
Okay.
that after this vote. Mr. Hamlin,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
No.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Levin,
Yes.
Mr. Pfizer,
No.
Ms. Botrain,
Yes.
Mr. Zubroli is not here, and I vote no as well. The motion carries with 5 in favor and 3 against. So Alan, since we were defeated and the yeses prevailed, what would your suggestion be for monitoring and penalizing for failure to comply?
Well, I guess the logical place, it would lie with the town clerk to make note of the different meetings, but I see it being a very, very difficult task. But if it's passed, we'll just go on the honor system. I have no objection, but I think future committee, charter committee, review committee boards will pick this apart because there's some components that are not included in it. That's all.
Do you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to add both monitoring and enforcement.
Yeah, do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll do that. I would make a motion that consistent with 211-4, the town clerk would monitor each of the town precincts so they achieve 4 meetings per calendar year. Something along those lines. I don't know if I missed anything.
Alan, question, how do you enforce it now? How do you enforce, we have an enforcement mechanism if they don't organize. What is the?
Steve, I'm not even aware that there is an enforcement mechanism today for the 2 meetings that we should have for each town meeting. I've never heard of one, to be honest.
So right now, the only enforcement element that we have is in 2-11-2, 2-11-1, wherein the town clerk will call us together if we fail to organize. 2-11-2 doesn't have an enforcement mechanism, and presently as written, 2-11-4 does not have an enforcement mechanism. Go ahead, Joe.
The town clerk is a busy person. And adding enforcement to that role for something that probably ought to be self-enforcing is, I don't think advisable.
So my contention throughout the course of this, has been that if elected officials are not in compliance with the charter, it's on the electorate to kick them out. So I'm happy to move forward with this motion, but I'm not certain that within my philosophy, it doesn't seem to be necessary.
Right.
But, excuse me, that's
Good.
I would agree with that. I will withdraw the motion if that's the will of the group.
hang on,
Hang on one second now, go ahead.
don't give up yet, don't give up yet. You know, we pass laws every day in this country to try to make people do things without penalty. So what's the penalty? Dave's right, the penalty is not doing your job, you don't get reelected. But how do people know they're not doing their job? So if, in the old days, they may take you, put you in the gallows in front of town hall, obviously we don't have that anymore. We could make them go pick up nip bottles, I don't know if that'll work, you know, we could do a whole bunch of different things. So I think that while I think it's important that we have some kind of quote enforcement, but without any teeth to it, it's just ink on paper.
Well, at some point, there needs to, we're always left to the general enforcement of the community. The community can always turn around and say, hey, wait a minute. Charter says X and my precinct hasn't done this. You need to do it. They can literally make demand
That's right.
on them because they can point to the charter and say, precinct X, you haven't had your required numbers of meetings, you need to do this. Ultimately, the short answer is if they don't follow the charter and they're not good, someone can sue them. If you're really going to get down to it, someone can go to court and say, I'm moving for declaratory judgment, you haven't done this. I don't think we're ever going to get to that stage, but we are going to get to the point where someone is going to turn around and say, you have to have some additional meetings. And they'll hold the additional meetings because it's there, because someone can point to it and say, there it is. If no one is clamoring for the additional meetings, then no one will make it, it will make a difference anyway. But if someone wants that meeting, this will give them an opportunity.
Well, this will give them something to fall back on and say, you have to have the meeting.
Correct.
Because you're, by the Constitution, supposed
Is
to
it-
have these meetings.
Is it,
Right, Mark?
Excuse me.
Alan, we'll go to Martha, and then I'll come back to you.
is it possible just to change the word shall after delegation to may? And then everyone will be happy, you can do it as many as you like?
Yeah,
They just literally let them off the hook.
Oh,
yeah, I think that really that's.
after all our conversation.
Yeah, no. Go ahead, Martha, you have.
I would it qualify for a meeting to have the precinct say that our meeting is going to be at the COPC meeting? We're going there because COPC is talking about such and such. Or, I would think that would be a great way to get citizens involved, and then the next meeting would be to talk about it or something like that.
As written, it wouldn't preclude them from doing that, I would say, I mean, you could co-host.
So you
the
can
meeting.
be creative.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could. Alan, go ahead.
We'll go to an A and F meeting.
I'm gonna pull my last motion, a motion that we just changed the word shall in the newly voted to 11-4 from shall to may. And I would be happy with it.
Okay, Alan makes Mr. Costello makes the motion, is there a second? I will second the motion for discussion purposes, is there further discussion on the matter?
I mean, if you're gonna say may, you might as well not even do it. I think, you know, we're trying to solve an issue about engagement. It always comes up. And the question is, how do we make it easier for people to be engaged? The sad part is you have people who raise their hands, say they want to be a town meeting member, and then don't do anything. You spend all this money, and so I'm not sure putting a section in about having meetings is not bad. As Steve said, it gives somebody, I can then go to my precinct chair and say, look, you haven't had this meeting, the charter says you have this meeting, when are you gonna have this meeting? And so I think it's do that, so I think changing it from shall to may. Again, like I said before, it just means, like I said about enforcement, it's just ink on paper. And in this case, it's probably even worse. So I'm not for changing the word from shall to may.
Well, Len, I love going to meetings. You love going to meetings. Everyone in that room enjoys going to meetings, trying to help the town, but I don't think you can mandate everyone across the representative town meeting form of government to make all of these meetings. You're gonna start legislating people's attendance. I think you run the risk of having people drop out versus join.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Bolton?
No,
Mr. Hammond?
No.
Mr. Cavaco is not present. Mr. Costello?
Now,
You're voting no on your motion?
what was it? Yes, I'm voting yes. I apologize. I'm voting
worries.
to change it from shall to may. Yes.
All right, just want to make sure. That's why I asked.
Yeah, no, I was confused. You're right. My fault.
Mr. Hutchinson?
No.
Mr. Law is not present. Mr. Levin?
No,
Mr. Pizer?
Yes.
Ms. Boeckrey?
No,
Mrs. Zuccarelli is not present, and I will vote yes as well. Our same contingent has lost, in a vote of, 3 in favor and 5 against. So 2-11-4 will remain as is. And unless I hear from folks about sections 6, 10, and 12, between now and, let's say, Friday.
What's 6 to, wait,
So section 6 is the moderator,
yep,
section 10 is the conflict of interest, and section 12 is FinCom.
I do have a matter for sections, for 6,
Please,
small.
please send it to me between now and Friday. My intention is
did I
that,
want for,
yep, if you have anything for any of those sections, please send it to me between now and Friday. Because I want to be able to craft our agenda for our Tuesday meeting and get it, well, actually, when do we have to post? We have to post on Friday?
you have to post it for the end of
We have folks Thursday.
Thursday.
No,
No,
Friday,
Friday.
Monday and Tuesday.
All right, so please send me any changes that you wish to see
Today. Oh, today's Tuesday.
in sections 6, the moderator.
oh, this is
10,
because it's going to be a Zoom.
conflict of interest, and 12 FinCom, by Thursday. I had intended not to visit those sections, one, because we did section 10 ad nauseum. And 2, because the sense that I got from folks was that the moderator and the FinCom section were working as is. But
It's technical stuff, sorry.
if you've got stuff, send it to me, and then I will evaluate the level of depth we will go to each of those sections. Because I would like to also move on to numbering and then get us into chapter 3, at least within the next 2 meetings, so. Please get that information to me as soon as possible.
Can I try again?
For what?
A motion to adjourn?
Let me see if there's any new business. Is there any old business? Mr. Pizer?
Move to adjourn?
Excellent, hearing, unless there's objection, I will call the meeting adjourned.